Welcome to Reddit Stories, where Karen is demanding to cheat with her favorite YouTuber. Karen demands to cheat with her favorite YouTuber. I exposed them both and got nuclear revenge. So Chloe and I were together for about 3 years. We're both 28. For the most part, things were fine in the beginning. But over the last year or so, she got super obsessed with local social media stuff. Specifically, this one local food vlogger. He doesn't deserve clout from this for his channel, so let's just call him Kyle. Kyle had around 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. He basically drove around our state reviewing hole-in-the-wall diners, food trucks, and small-town barbecue spots. To a normal person, he was just a guy with a camera who ate burgers on video. But to Chloe, he was practically a Hollywood celebrity. She watched every single video the second it dropped. She bought his cringy merch t-shirts. She even made us drive 2 hours on a Saturday just to eat at some mediocre diner because Kyle gave it an 8 out of 10. I tried to be supportive because everyone has their weird hyperfixations, but it was getting exhausting. Then Kyle posted a community update on his channel. He was doing a meet and greet filming session at a new burger place about 30 minutes from our place. Chloe went crazy. She spent 2 hours getting dressed up like she was going to the red carpet. I had to work late that night, so I couldn't go, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise. When she got home around 1 a.m., she was acting super weird. She barely said 2 words to me, kept staring at her phone with this little smirk, and brushed me off when I asked how the meetup went. The next morning, she sat me down at the kitchen table. She looked super serious, like she was about to present some sort of a business proposal. Basically, she told me that at the meetup, Kyle invited a few select fans to grab drinks at a bar, and he ended up giving her his personal number. Then she looked me dead in the eye and demanded that I let her hook up with him. She started trying to logic her way through it, saying that everyone in a long-term relationship deserves a one-time pass to sleep with someone else, especially if it's a celebrity or an influencer. She kept saying it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance for her and that if I really loved her, I'd let her have this experience because it didn't mean anything emotionally. I was completely stunned. I didn't even know what to say at first. Over the next 2 days, I was extremely stressed out. I barely slept. My head was spinning constantly. She kept bringing it up, pushing the idea, and making it sound like I was being unreasonable and outdated for saying no. I loved her so much, and the thought of losing her or ruining our 3 years together terrified me. I actually started catching myself thinking maybe I should just go along with it. Maybe I should just bite my tongue, give her the pass, and let her do it so we could stay together. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized how insane that actually was. It felt totally wrong in my gut, no matter how much she tried to normalize it. Modern internet culture tries to spin all this BS and act like boundaries don't matter anymore. But sometimes the only place you'll find the truth is in yourself, no matter what this clown world wants you to believe. I realized that if someone truly loves you, they wouldn't ask you to sacrifice your self-respect just so they can chase a cheap thrill. So I decided to play along just long enough to see what she was actually doing. Turns out, she wasn't even waiting for my permission. That same afternoon, while she was in the shower, she left her laptop open in the kitchen. Her messaging app was open, and notifications were popping off in a group chat with her 3 best friends. I walked over and looked. She was bragging to her friends about how she had already set up the hookup with Kyle at his cheap motel room for that night, regardless of what I said. She was talking about me like I was a total joke. She told her friends that trying to get with an influencer made her realize how much of a loser I actually was. She called me dead weight, said I had no ambition, and laughed about how I was stressing out over her one-time pass request. Her friends were literally hyping her up in the chat too, telling her to go for it. I took out my phone and took crystal clear photos of every single text, timestamp, and message in that chat. I closed the laptop, went into the living room, and sat down to figure out my plan. I wasn't going to yell at her or let her walk away thinking she played me. I wanted total destruction. I spent the next 2 hours quietly digging into Kyle's online presence while Chloe was getting ready for work. Turns out, Kyle's entire wholesome local guy image was a huge lie. On his channel, he constantly talked about his supportive team behind the scenes. That team was literally just his pregnant fiancée who edited all of his videos and managed his emails. On top of that, he relied heavily on sponsorships from local mom-and-pop restaurants who paid him a few $100 to feature their food. I had all the leverage that I needed for both of them. When Chloe walked out of the bathroom all dressed up for work, she barely looked at me. She just grabbed her purse and said, "Anyway, I gotta run. Busy day today. We'll talk more about my past tonight." I looked at her and said, "Don't bother coming back tonight. Or ever." She froze in the doorway, staring at me like she had seen a ghost. She started stammering about how I was being dramatic, but I just held up my phone with the screenshots of her group chat where she planned to go to his motel room anyway. The look on her face went from smug to panicked real quick. I didn't even argue with her. I just told her she had until 5 p.m. to pack her stuff and get out of my apartment, or I'd throw everything out into the driveway. She left for work crying, probably assuming I was just going to be a quiet pushover like usual. So while she was at work, I got busy. First, I dealt with Kyle. I found his business email, which was managed directly by his pregnant fiancée. I attached every single screenshot of Chloe's texts detailing her plans with Kyle, the timestamps, and Chloe bragging about him picking up fans at his meet and greets. I sent it with a short note saying she deserved to know what kind of a guy she was working for and building a family with. Next, I looked up the local restaurants that routinely sponsored his videos. There were 3 main ones in our town that always had their logos on his channel. I sent a courteous email to the owners attaching proof that their wholesome local creator was using his brand to pick up women in the area. Small-town business owners care a lot about local reputation, so I knew they wouldn't want their brand attached to that. Finally, I handled Chloe. I took the entire screenshot thread, including her demanding a pass, her friends encouraging her, and her calling me a loser, and I dropped it into a fresh group chat with her parents, her brother, and all of our mutual friends. I added a simple message. Chloe demanded a pass to cheat on me with a guy who has 20,000 YouTube subscribers and planned it behind my back. Since her friends seem to think it's so funny, I figured everyone else should see it too. Then I packed up every single item she owned, put her boxes on the front porch, and had the locks rekeyed by 3 p.m. By 4 p.m., all heck broke loose. Her mom called me crying and apologizing profusely for her daughter's behavior. Her brother texted me saying he was disgusted by what she did and that he was on my side. Mutual friends started blasting her group chat friends for enabling her, which turned into a massive blow-up within their friend group. Then came the fallout for Kyle. Apparently, his pregnant fiancée got my email and completely lost it. She scrubbed her name from his channel, deleted his social media, and moved out that same day. Without her doing all the editing and managing, his channel came to a grinding halt. On top of that, 2 of the 3 local sponsors immediately pulled their deals and publicly demanded he remove their branding from his videos. Chloe tried coming back to the house around 5:30 p.m., but her key didn't work. When she saw her stuff on the porch, she started pounding on the door, crying and begging me to let her explain. She kept saying Kyle meant nothing to her and that he blocked her on everything as soon as his fiancée confronted him. I didn't open the door. I just watched her through the window as her brother pulled up in his truck to haul her boxes away. It's been a few months now. Kyle's channel is pretty much dead. He hasn't uploaded in weeks, his views plummeted, and everyone in the local food scene knows what happened. Chloe is currently living in her parents' basement, broke, disgraced, and completely single. As for me, I've got a quiet place now, no drama, and a completely fresh start. Man, the 20,000 subscriber ego is real. These micro-influencers hit double-digit thousands and start acting like they're rock stars on a world tour. Good on you for dropping the receipts directly to his fiancé and sponsors. Total boss move. Her brother pulling up in the truck to haul her trash bags away from your porch is absolute poetry. Glad her family actually has some sense and didn't try to defend her gross behavior. Enjoy the peace and quiet, man. You earned it. I don't know. You don't sound like a hero to me. I'm a firm believer in one-time passes. My husband knows that if I ever had the chance to get with Justin Timberlake, he would have no say in the matter. Reddit boy, can we skip the psycho this time? Just this once. Alright, Karen, but those are my favorite comments to read. It always feels like a little reminder from the universe saying, hey, this could have been you. Aren't you glad I didn't let you turn out like this?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you don't throw away your relationship for a guy who gets paid in free onion rings. Imagine destroying your entire life for a food vlogger with 20,000 subscribers.
Yeah, this ain't Gordon Ramsay we're talking about either. This is a dude with a ring light and a cholesterol problem.
My favorite part was how he blocked her the moment his pregnant fiancé found out. OP's ex wasn't the co-star. She was the side order.
What's the most pathetic reason you've ever seen someone blow up their own life? Let us know in the comments. And for every thumbs up this video gets, one cheating YouTuber gets exposed and has to make an apology video.
I'm so sorry to all my fans, and most importantly, to my spouse.
Yeah, that's not what you were saying in the cheap motel room. Wife says I need to get over it, but I can't stop obsessing over a prank that ruined my wedding experience. I had an amazing wedding experience that was completely ruined by a prank my wife and friends played during the garter removal. Am I the jerk for refusing to let it go? During the reception, we were doing all the usual wedding traditions and games. Eventually, it was time for the garter removal. Everyone gathered around us on the dance floor. My wife sat down in a chair, and my friends brought out a blindfold. They told me I would be removing the garter while blindfolded. I probably should have been suspicious because everyone seemed way too excited about it. But I'd had a few drinks, wasn't expecting anything unusual, and I figured it was all in good fun. As soon as the blindfold went on, my wife quietly slipped out of the chair and one of my groomsmen took her place. He's a family friend that I've known for years, but we're not especially close. My wife stood nearby talking to me the whole time, so I wouldn't realize she had switched places. Following everyone's instructions, I got down on my knees and started feeling for what I thought was my wife's leg. I found the garter and started pulling it down. Then I heard my wife yell, "With your mouth!" The crowd started cheering, so I played along, thinking I was sharing a funny wedding moment with my new wife. The entire time, I had absolutely no idea I was doing this with a groomsman sitting in the chair instead. Once I had the garter, everyone told me to stand up and remove the blindfold. I was smiling when I did it because I thought I had been a good sport, and everyone was laughing because we had all shared a funny moment together. Then I took off the blindfold and I saw him sitting there. The laughter immediately got louder. In that instant, I realized everyone had known exactly what was happening except for me. What felt like a fun moment a second earlier suddenly felt like I'd been set up to be the joke. The entire room seemed focused on me, and all I could think about was that everyone was laughing at my expense. I was furious. I wanted to say something. I wanted to walk away, demand an explanation. Instead, I did none of those things. I convinced myself that acting like it didn't bother me was the only way to keep from making it worse. Showing how angry I was felt like it would only confirm how badly I'd been humiliated. So I smiled, played along, and basically sleepwalked through the rest of my own wedding reception. My wife could tell I seemed stunned, but I don't think she had any idea how deeply I was taking it. We were surrounded by family and friends, and after all the planning, money, and effort that had gone into the wedding, I didn't want to create a scene. I kept pretending everything was fine the next morning at brunch and through most of our honeymoon. Eventually, I convinced myself that she hadn't meant to hurt me and there was no point ruining her wedding memories by telling her mine had been damaged. Then, near the end of the honeymoon, after a few drinks, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Once I started talking, everything came out. I told her I felt humiliated. I told her I thought it was trashy. I told her it damaged my trust and my sense of intimacy with her. Looking back, I know I got carried away and said things more harshly than I should have. At first, she apologized, but eventually she got upset too and walked away from the conversation. Part of me thinks I kept pushing because I was hurt and wanted her to feel some of that hurt as well. Since then, it's become a difficult subject. I've told her I don't want to look at wedding photos, watch the wedding video, or even talk about the wedding. If our anniversary were tomorrow, I honestly wouldn't be excited about celebrating it. My wife and I have a lot of strengths in our relationship, which is why this bothers me so much. Every time I think about that moment, I replay the exact same scene. Taking off the blindfold, seeing him instead of her, hearing everyone laugh, looking around the room, and realizing I was the only one who didn't know what was happening. The worst part is that it was all recorded. We had a professional videographer there, and several guests recorded it on their phones too. Every time I remember those videos exist somewhere, it feels like the moment never really ended. My wife says she's sorry. She says she genuinely thought I would laugh and enjoy it. She says she never intended to hurt me and thought I'd be able to laugh it off afterward. Part of me believes her. Part of me knows she wasn't trying to be cruel. The problem is that I can't seem to stop replaying that moment and getting angry all over again. I know you'll ask me what I actually want at this point, and the truth is that I don't know. That's probably part of why I'm struggling so much. I don't know how to undo what happened. I don't know how to make that feeling disappear. I don't know how to stop thinking about it. Part of me wants to be a good sport and just move on. Part of me gets angry every single time I remember it. Most days I bounce back and forth between the two. I just know that I hate feeling this way. I think the reason you can't let this go is that you're focusing on the prank itself, when the real issue is how it made you feel. The moment you took off that blindfold, you went from believing you were sharing a funny wedding tradition with your wife to realizing you were the only person in the room who didn't know what was happening. That's a very different experience from everyone else's. To them, it was a joke. To you, it was a moment of public embarrassment during one of the most important days of your life. But what stands out to me is that every time you describe it, you come back to that exact moment. Not the garter, not the groomsmen, not the wedding game. The moment you realized you were the punchline. I don't think your wife intended to hurt you, but she badly misjudged how you'd react. The fact that she didn't realize this would affect you so deeply is probably hurting you almost as much as the prank itself. A prank is only funny when the person being pranked is laughing too. My husband once did a wedding joke involving my profession, and it worked because I was in on it and the joke celebrated me instead of embarrassing me. Everyone laughed, including me. That's the difference. What happened here wasn't necessarily malicious, but it was definitely risky. Your wife, the planner, and everyone else involved made a huge assumption about how you would react. They all pictured you taking off the blindfold, laughing, and turning it into a funny story you'd tell for years. Instead, it landed completely wrong. The unfortunate part is that this happened during your wedding. If this had happened at a backyard barbecue, it probably would have been forgotten within a week. Since it happened during a once-in-a-lifetime event, it's now attached to memories that were supposed to be special. I actually think both things can be true at the same time. Your wife clearly made a mistake. Looking back, that's obvious. She misread your sense of humor, trusted bad advice, and took a gamble on a wedding day prank that didn't pay off. She owes you an apology, and from everything you've written, it sounds like she has apologized and understands that she messed up. At the same time, I don't think there's a magical solution here. Nobody can erase the memory. Nobody can go back and stop it from happening. That's probably why you're struggling when people ask what outcome you want. The thing you want the most isn't something anyone can actually give you. The good news is that your post doesn't read like someone who hates his wife. It reads like someone who is deeply embarrassed and doesn't know what to do with those feelings. If she truly understands why it hurt you and would never do something similar again, eventually you'll have to decide whether this becomes a bad wedding memory or a permanent shadow hanging over your marriage. Update 2.5 months later. Hi everyone, this is The Wife. If you know us and what this is about, please know we're both very embarrassed about this. We took the original post down, but it spread far beyond what either of us had expected and keeps popping up in different places. Since people are still talking about it, I wanted to write one final update on behalf of both of us. We've spoken with everyone involved. We're on good terms with our friends and family. Nobody is feuding, nobody's been cut off. Everything is okay. As for the wedding itself, I want to be very clear about something. I am the one who made the mistake here. The planner presented several ideas. I saw versions of this prank online. I watched videos where everyone seemed to think it was hilarious. I thought it would be funny. I was wrong. That's not my opinion now, that's a fact. I was wrong because the only reaction that actually mattered was my husband's, and he didn't find it funny. I also want people to understand something that didn't fully come across in the original post. My husband was incredibly gracious during the wedding, after the wedding, and through almost our entire honeymoon. He wasn't stomping around angry. He wasn't picking fights. He wasn't making everyone miserable. Quite the opposite. We had an amazing honeymoon overall. The reason the conversation finally exploded near the end of the trip is that I was teasing him about the prank. At the time, I genuinely thought I was teasing him about something he found mildly embarrassing but ultimately funny. I had absolutely no idea how upset he actually was. I could tell I was needling him a little, but I thought it was harmless married couple teasing. Looking back, I cringed thinking about it. Of course I thought he'd laugh. My husband has a great sense of humor. We joke with each other all the time. We've always joked with each other. This simply landed differently than I expected. Sometimes something seems funny in theory and turns out not to be funny at all when it actually happens to someone you love. Taking that risk at our wedding was a terrible decision. One thing I want to clarify is that I didn't literally tell him to just get over it, the way some people interpret it. When he first opened up about how hurt he was, I struggled to continue the conversation because hearing him that angry was upsetting. He almost never gets angry. We eventually agreed to step back and revisit the discussion once emotions had settled down. At the same time, we both knew we couldn't stay stuck there forever. We couldn't spend the rest of our marriage refusing to talk about our wedding, refusing to celebrate anniversaries, or replaying one bad moment over and over. Moving forward had to be the goal, even if we weren't sure how to get there yet. Looking back now, I understand why people reacted the way they did. To someone watching from the outside, especially after hearing my husband's side first, the prank sounds awful. At the time, though, it looked like the same harmless wedding prank that appears in countless videos online. Everyone involved thought it would go over well. I even find myself wondering now whether the videos that get shared are only the successful versions, while the ones where someone is genuinely hurt never make it online. The bottom line is that this was unnecessary. It was avoidable. It was a mistake. We learned from it, we're doing well, we love each other. We've talked through it. We've gained a lot of perspective from all of this, even if some of that perspective came from thousands of strangers yelling at us on the internet. One positive thing to come from all of this is that it forced us to communicate better than we probably would have otherwise. We're moving forward. My husband says he hopes everyone eventually gets their thank you cards. That's it from us. Goodbye. I appreciate you taking responsibility, but I still think you're missing why people reacted so strongly. This wasn't really about the prank itself, it was about timing. If this happened at a birthday party, most people would have forgotten it in a month. But this happened at a wedding. A wedding is supposed to be one of those rare days where both people feel celebrated, appreciated, and supported. Instead, your husband walked away feeling like he was the punchline. I do believe you didn't intend to hurt him. I also believe you genuinely thought that he'd laugh. The problem is that intent and impact aren't always the same thing. The fact that you're acknowledging that now is probably the healthiest part of this update. You're the jerk. This entire update feels more focused on explaining why you aren't a bad person than on explaining why your husband was hurt. You say you take responsibility, but then you immediately pivot into reasons it seemed funny at the time, reasons other people agreed, reasons there were videos online, and reasons you thought he'd enjoy it. The thing that stands out is that your husband had to carry this around for weeks before finally saying something. Then when he did tell you how badly it affected him, your first instinct was to explain rather than fully listen. I'm glad your marriage survived it. I'm glad things are better. I just don't think this update shows nearly as much understanding of his experience as you think it does. The craziest part here is that this whole thing started because she thought she knew exactly how he'd react.
That's marriage in a nutshell. Being completely sure what your spouse is thinking, then immediately learning that you weren't even in the same zip code.
At least she eventually realized that if 100 wedding guests laugh, but your groom doesn't, you've got a problem.
Exactly. Turns out the only review that mattered gave the prank 1 star.
How about if you love someone, don't make them the butt of the joke or embarrass them in front of people?
Right. If you can understand the concept of honor and you treat others with it, life has a tendency to go so much smoother.
My mom hates where we live and does anything she can to try to convince us to hate it too. This post will be about my mom's tendency to try to make everyone think the exact same thing she does, then play the victim if they don't agree with her, among lots of other things that she does. Anyways, I'm 16, female, and I live in a state in the southern part of America, in a big city. Me and my family moved to this state back in September of 2023 and have been here ever since. We had previously lived in the Midwest in a town with no more than 4,000 people, so the difference was definitely noticeable, going from a tiny town where everyone knew everyone to a city with around 1.9 million people. For the first while, everything was fine. Granted, my experience here has been a little lackluster. I like the state. I don't always like my situation in this state, but whatever. I accepted that this was where we live now, and I tried to adjust. Cut to around mid-2024, when my mom decided she hated this state out of the blue. She began constantly talking to me and my siblings about how much she hated everything here. She hated the area, hated the people, hated the lifestyle, hated pretty much anything she could think of. The problem was, none of us really agreed with her because we had actually started enjoying it here. After seeing that none of us felt the same way, she decided to stop driving almost entirely. She refused to even drive my older brother to work, which was only about 3 minutes down the road. We originally moved here because of my dad's job. He started making more money than he ever had, with the unfortunate downside that he wasn't home as often. Usually he's only home on weekends. Once my mom stopped driving, me and my siblings stopped being able to go to events or do normal things outside the house. We were basically limited to only going places whenever my dad was home. In 2023, my mom had also decided to pull me and my brothers from school and switch us to homeschooling, which has been one of the worst experiences I've ever had. There went basically my entire social life. No school, no regular activities, and no way to go anywhere. It took about a year of me trying to make friends and failing over and over before she even noticed. She didn't even realize I didn't have friends anymore until I had to actually tell her. Her reaction was basically,
"You're just mature for your age. You don't need friends."
So at this point, she stopped taking us places, changed our schooling, and started resenting my dad because his job was the reason we moved here. She also treats me like the little babysitter who's constantly in charge of watching my younger brothers. The 2025 school year rolled around, and I asked my mom if I could take driver's education. She immediately shut it down and said absolutely not. She said she didn't want me driving in this state, and that was final. Now, I could have had my license by this point if I had been able to take that class. I just wanted some independence and the ability to leave the house and do things. I also wanted to get a job, but she shut that down too. She thinks I should just focus on learning things around the house instead. Now she's become worried about everything all the time. Anything I bring up, she finds a reason why it's a bad idea. She's completely convinced that moving away and living somewhere quiet is the only answer, and she expects all of us to come with her. Anytime I mention wanting to go to college, she immediately dismisses it and says I should move with her instead. The problem is, that's not the future I want for myself. I want to go to college. I want a career. I want to experience life outside of my house. Anyways, back to her hating the state. Me and my brother have been wanting to do simple things, like go to a local pool or the park. And every time we bring it up, she immediately says no and tells us the area isn't safe. She barely lets us do anything outside the house anymore. Everything we bring up gets turned into something negative. "Hey mom, can we go to this thing this weekend?"
"No, it's not safe."
Everything is constantly,
"I hate this state."
When we don't agree, she either gets mad and says we're too naive, stops talking to us because we disagree, or makes us feel bad for not taking her side. There's been talk about her moving somewhere more isolated when I graduate, and she expects everyone to be on board. I especially worry about my younger brother who's 14 because I don't want him stuck feeling like he has no choices either. I also have an older brother who is 25 and lives in a different state. He has his own life now, but seeing him actually get to make his own choices makes me want that too. Even when we tell my mom we don't agree, she'll tell my dad that everyone wants to move and everyone agrees with her. We don't. She just can't stand to hear another opinion. It's her way or the highway. If anything, I actually love this state more than I used to. I miss my old home sometimes, but I live here now and I accepted that. I just can't deal with the constant negativity anymore. It's affecting everyone. I kind of went off track from the point of this post, but in short, my mom constantly talks about how much she hates where we live and is making everyone else miserable because we don't feel the same way. I think you need to have a serious conversation with your dad and tell him exactly what's going on when he's not home. It sounds like he may only be getting part of the story. He's still your parent, even if he's busy with work. He needs to know how much this is affecting you and your siblings, especially when it comes to school, friends, learning to drive, and preparing for adulthood. This isn't even about the state anymore. It sounds like the bigger issue is that one person's unhappiness is starting to control the whole household. Please talk to your older brother and let him know everything that's been happening. Sometimes when you're living in the middle of a situation every day, it starts to feel normal even when it isn't. You deserve to have goals, friends, education, and a future you're excited about. Wanting independence as you get older is normal. Wanting to make choices for yourself is normal. Hopefully, another adult in your family can help you talk through what options you have. It sounds like your mom is having a really hard time adjusting to such a big change. Moving from a town of 4,000 people to a huge city would be overwhelming for a lot of people. That being said, it isn't fair for her dislike of the new place to decide how everyone else is allowed to feel. Your siblings are allowed to enjoy living there, and you're allowed to have different dreams for your future. Hopefully, your family can find a balance where your mom feels heard, but everyone else gets a voice too. So mom moved from a tiny town to a huge city and just decided the problem was definitely the city and not her attitude toward it?
Right? Turns out changing your address is easy. Changing your mindset apparently requires a much larger moving truck.
I feel bad for those kids though. Imagine finally adjusting to a new place only to have someone keep trying to convince you that you're miserable.
Exactly. At some point, the state isn't personally attacking you. It's just sitting there on a map, wondering why it got dragged into family drama.
Am I the jerk for telling my mom if she didn't want kids, then she's not getting a huge Mother's Day celebration? Growing up, my dad stayed at home while my mom worked. While my mom financially provided for my sister and myself, she was emotionally hands-off. She came to a ballet recital here and there, but didn't want to help with homework, didn't want to listen when we needed advice, etc. Our dad did 95% of the emotional labor. I later found out from my mom that my dad was the one who had wanted kids. She loved her career and didn't mind providing financially, but she didn't want to do any of the stuff related to raising us outside of that. I am very grateful she provided for us financially, but I do admit it hurts that she wasn't there when we needed her. She was physically present, but not emotionally present. Edit. As this has come up, just to be clear, the arrangement was my mother's idea, not my father's. That being said, I do agree that my father was equally as selfish for making this arrangement. My dad always did grand gestures for her. Mother's Day was always a big deal with a huge brunch, flowers, gifts. She was spoiled. She did nothing for him on Father's Day. He had to do everything for himself until my sister and I were old enough to do things for him. I get that was the arrangement that they had, but I know it made my dad sad. I once asked why he didn't get the same hoopla our mom got, and he just sadly said, Father's Day isn't as important as Mother's Day. As adults, my sister and I have tried to rectify it. We do Father's Day up big, and our dad loves it. We grill for him just how he taught us to, and we throw a huge barbecue with some family members. However, we've turned Mother's Day very low-key. We still celebrate our mom, but she usually gets a quiet lunch at a restaurant of her choice and a few gifts. After my mom ended up skipping my sister's baby shower this year because she didn't see the big deal with somebody having a baby, my sister wanted to do nothing for her. We sent gifts, but spent Mother's Day with each other, our husbands, and our own kids. My mom told us after Father's Day that she was hurt that we didn't do more for her in recent years. I said that since she put in almost no emotional labor into raising us, we're putting none into her. She said that she had had an agreement with our father. I pointed out that yes, but we never agreed to it, and it wasn't fair that we grew up with an emotionally absent mother who didn't even want us. And to be fair, we have had this conversation with our dad as well, and he admits it wasn't fair to us either. I also said if she didn't want kids, then why should she be celebrated as a mom? My mom is upset with both of us and called us ungrateful brats. My dad feels bad for her, but he supports our choice. Am I the jerk? Edit. To those asking how I'd feel if my dad were the one that acted like this, or how I feel about dads who do this in general, they suck just as much, and it's not fair to the kids, regardless of whatever agreement spouses come to. Not the jerk. Even disregarding how you all were raised and your parents' agreement about that, you're adults now, and your mom is still not giving either of you any care. She can't be bothered to attend her daughter's baby shower, but thinks you all should make a fuss over her for Mother's Day. Nope, that's not how it works. I would give her as much energy as she gives you, which would free up a lot of your time, money, and energy. OP. This is the real issue we have. We were willing to continue to celebrate her in recent years as we hoped we could develop a bond as we're no longer kids, we don't need raising, etc. But no, she wants very little to do with us year-round until Mother's Day. My wife is cheating on me without cheating on me. Let me explain. My wife and I have been each other's closest and often only friend for the longest time. Both of us are very shy and we have a hard time making friends. Recently, she made a friend at her job who is a guy. She's had guy work friends before and it never really bothered me, but this time it's different. First, she started texting him a lot, out of nowhere, and I didn't even know about it until I discovered she went over our texting limit, which she never ever got close to before. She hid it from me for fear of me getting jealous. She's adamant about him just being a friend and one that she needs. She goes to lunch with him and goes to get coffee. Once a week or so, they talk on the phone for a couple of hours. They've also been sending pictures of themselves to each other. Nothing bad, just normal stuff. They often text each other all day long, literally, even to the point that they have to say goodnight to each other. Now, for the most part, she's been open about it all. Every now and then, I'll discover something she didn't tell me or catch her in a small lie that she said she was doing to protect my feelings. But still, for the most part, she isn't hiding it. I'm fairly positive they aren't spending more time together than I think because there isn't any missing time in her schedule that I've seen. No time unexplained. But I still feel like she's having an emotional affair. I've told her, in no uncertain terms, that this makes me uncomfortable, that I really don't like her having this level of friendship with another man. But I also know that it's wrong for me to tell her she can't have this friendship. The problem is, he's also married, and their marriage is going through tough times, and his wife has told him not to text my wife anymore. So they've started texting through hanging with friends so she won't know, which I think is disrespectful and wrong. People at her work have been speculating that they're having an affair, to the point it's spread to the whole store. I've asked my wife, in one of the many fights and discussions we've had about this, if she would tell her mom what she's doing. She said no. I asked if she thought what she was doing was against my wishes and his wife's wishes was okay. She said no. But this is not enough to get her to stop. I'm not even asking her to drop him as a friend, just to treat him like a normal friend from work. No platonic dates or long chats or all-day text marathons. She has even told me that if this situation were reversed, she would hate it if I had a girlfriend like this. But still, this is not enough for her to stop. I cannot talk to anyone about it because every friend or family member of mine is also close with her, and I wouldn't want anyone thinking less of her or knowing we're having this issue. So I have to suffer in silence. I don't know what I should do. I'm trying to respect her and not be overbearing, but this whole thing just feels like it has gone way too far, and I feel like I'm justified in hating this. It feels good just to write this all out. Sorry I rambled and jumped around a bit. Just so much information. Update. I realize now that I'm in denial, and that whether she realizes it or not, this is a problem that needs fixing. I left her a letter at home explaining my feelings and packed a small bag. I'm spending the night in the hotel and have asked to meet with her tomorrow to talk this out. I don't know if this is the right step to take first, but I feel like I need to wake her up to the fact that I'm not going to be okay with this. I'm sure she'll try and call and find me tonight. Don't know if I'll answer when she does. Not sure what's going to happen, but whatever happens, it's going to happen now. And also, I'm male for those of you who are wondering. Update. In the letter, I posted about a dozen of the comments from you guys, just so that she could see that other people think of our situation. I also included what I posted so she would know I didn't exaggerate. When she got home and read the note, she called me. I didn't answer, but in her voicemail, in which she was bawling, which was very uncharacteristic of her, she begged me to come home and talk. She said in the message that yesterday she was at lunch with the other guy and they both had already decided to end the friendship because they both realized they were developing feelings for each other. After a while, I decided to go home and talk with her. We had quite a long conversation. She told me that the other day he admitted to having feelings for her, but promised not to push. She told me that the day before yesterday, she realized she was developing feelings for him too, and it scared her. She said she really thought they were just friends, but she was refusing to believe it was becoming anything more, and then it just happened. She told me that they didn't do anything physical yet, that it hadn't gotten that far yet, which is why they decided to end the friendship because neither wanted to cross a line they can't uncross. I'm choosing to believe her in that. She told me that even though she was already backing out of the friendship with him, that the letter I left really opened her eyes at what she was doing to me and to us. It really hurt me to see her so broken and ashamed. I've never seen her like this before. We both cried for a long time. I said everything I had to say and asked the questions I needed to know the answers to. I believe she was honest with me, finally, about everything, including some things that were hard to hear. This went on for a couple of hours. Instead of staying at the hotel by myself, I invited her to come with me. We went out to dinner, went out to the hot tub at the hotel, and then had a wonderful night together. Now I know what some of you are thinking, but this isn't the end of it. We've got a lot of stuff to work through. We're talking about some counseling, and it'll take me a while to fully trust her again. I'm not just letting it slide like nothing happened, but also I'm not giving up on my marriage. I will not. I never will. Some of you may think that makes me a chump, but I don't care. This is the woman I pledged to spend the rest of my life with, and as far as I have a say in the matter, I don't intend on breaking that promise, for better or for worse. Today, I also sent a text message to the other guy, telling him that my wife told me what was going on, and that I wanted to make it clear that if I ever see even just a single non-work related text from him on her phone again, that we will be having a different discussion and in person. My wife and I have a long road ahead of us, but I'm positive we are both committed to getting things fixed between us and moving forward. Update. My wife and I have been having a lot of deep emotional discussions over these past couple of days. Having been with her for 12 years, I can honestly say that I've noticed a big change in her during these past couple of months. But these past few days, she's finally back to her old self again. I can tell that she's sincere. Found out that the other guy and his wife are moving away soon, which makes me happy. My wife has felt so terrible, she's committing to being transparent, allowing me to be as nosy as I need to be and to check up on her as much as I need to until I feel comfortable again. We're going to be starting up some counseling with our pastor soon, which I think is going to be a great help. It still hurts that it even got as far as it did. I've been cycling through anger, hurting, disappointment, and hope. I'm sure it will take a long while before those bad feelings go away, but we're going to be okay. I'm sure of it. If your spouse says, "I'm uncomfortable with this," and you shrug and continue to do it, your marriage is over. She didn't respect him or his feelings until it impacted negatively on her, and she certainly didn't end that affair for the right reasons. This is 9 years ago. I highly doubt they're still together. Yeah, I really can't get over that. She knew it wasn't okay. She said she'd refuse to tell her mom how she was acting. She and her friend, or affair partner, were sneaking around, especially behind his wife's back, and she said she wouldn't be cool with her husband doing exactly what she was doing. The hypocrisy. But as soon as her actions actually had consequences, she finally saw the light and magically decided to end the friendship? Yeah, right. She was just upset she couldn't have both. I doubt they're still together as well. At least I fully hope he wised up and left her. She's selfish and gross. The conversation between his wife and her affair partner probably went like this. "My husband left me. I'm single now. Will you leave your wife and be with me?" "No." And then 10 minutes later, "Hubby, I'm so sorry. We were only friends." Am I the jerk for not reconciling with my family after I was framed for theft? I'm 23, male. I'm the middle child of my parents who are in their 50s. I have an older sister who's 25 and a younger brother who's 19. I've been living away from my family for 5 years with a very bare minimum of contact because right around the time I turned 15, my dad's stuff started disappearing from his room. He has a pocket knife collection filled with different knives that he has collected from across the US, and some of them are pretty decently valuable. He also has a collection of baseball cards and autographed baseballs. These items would vanish from his room and end up in my room, and each time I got punished for it, and each time it was more severe than the last. I was looked at by my entire immediate family as a thief for 3 years, even though I constantly pleaded my innocence to them. I missed out on a few vacations, didn't have a 17th birthday celebration at all, didn't get my driver's license or a car until after I moved out, and I didn't have a job and had no way to save money aside from past birthdays and odd chores around my neighborhood. I remember my dad and mom telling me how much of a disappointment I was and that they wouldn't be surprised if I ended up in the local news as a robbery suspect or worse. My extended family wasn't much help either, and they saw me in the same light. It got so bad to the point where I genuinely wondered if I was actually stealing and not remembering it at all, either through some kind of mental struggle or doing it in my sleep or something. Earlier this week, I got a call from my mom. My dad had noticed that his things started disappearing again without me being there, and finally had the bright idea to set up cameras in the room, where my brother was caught taking stuff and putting them in my sister's old room. Mom told me about this and then said that she and my dad both apologized to me for not believing me and that they would love to have me over for her birthday dinner to catch up. I asked her what her plan was for my brother's punishment, and she got confused. I asked her again, reminding her that I was forced to miss out on a birthday, multiple vacations, and my driver's license at 16. She said my dad took his phone for a week and his video games for a month. I lost it on her and went off on them for treating me way worse when I was being framed for being a thief, while the actual thief only had his phone confiscated. I then said I will not be attending any events with them for the future, and I said, "You guys can buzz off." I hung up and I blocked her number. I then got a call later from my sister who told me that while my rage is very much justified, my mother has locked herself in our parents' bedroom. Am I the jerk? Update. My sister, who I will call T for simplicity, called me about an hour ago and apologized for what she told me. Me and her have been very close ever since I moved out, and she's been known to step up and apologize when she's in the wrong. No hard feelings towards her at all. As far as my parents go, my mother had an overnight epiphany according to T. She ended up kicking my brother, who I'll call J, out of the house after they were able to make him admit to doing this for years. Mom told T that he was sent to my granddad's house where he will be forced to get a job and pay rent as well as his own tuition now. My dad initially fought with her on this until she made him realize just how badly he was tearing his family apart. My dad then called me, apologizing profusely, telling me I don't ever have to see them again and that they would totally understand it, but they would love the chance to make amends and fix what they damaged. He offered to gift me the amount of money that I owed for loans, plus an extra $5,000 for keeps. I told him I'll think it over, but it might take me a while. I did accept his apology, but I haven't forgiven either of them yet, and I hung up. My mom doesn't know that me and T have kept in contact as I live about 2 hours away from my parents and 3 hours away from her. And T relayed to me that my mom and my dad were thinking about selling some stuff they own and taking extra shifts at each of their jobs so that they can get me a brand new vehicle as a surprise. I don't know how this is going to sound, but I'd rather not take a car or any extra money off of them as A, everything that I own so far I earned through my hard work, and B, I feel like just buying your kid's affection back is a lazy way to reconcile. As far as the situation goes, I did unblock my mom, but I will not be initiating conversation unless she or my dad text first. Also, they did make an apology on Facebook to me and scolded my brother for what happened, so at least my extended family knows now. It's nice that they now know that you were framed and that they want to make amends. However, they are not owed forgiveness, and they are not entitled to a relationship with you. If you do choose to give them a chance, start slow. They need to earn back your trust, and that doesn't happen overnight. Take some time to think about what boundaries and expectations you need to put in place to feel comfortable resuming contact with them. For example, after everything your brother has put everyone through, if you don't want to see him, or if you don't want them to discuss your life with him, they need to respect that. If they can't respect that boundary, let them know how you will respond. Good luck. OP. I doubt I'm going to reconcile fully. Their apologies feel more or less like they're sorry because they feel guilty, more so than they're sorry because they wronged me and want to make it better. My brother is done to me though. Nothing he could do could ever fix this. Accept the money. You're entitled to that, and it's the least that they can give you for being such awful parents and for the bad treatment. But don't accept the car, because if you accept it, they'll try to make you feel guilty for not forgiving them even though they tried to make it up to you with gifts. But if you don't accept anything from them, you won't even give them a chance to try and make you feel guilty for not forgiving them, and they wouldn't have the opportunity to gaslight you. Although in the end, it's your decision. You can still block them once you obtain the car. You can take it as part of your compensation also. OP. That's what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to accept the money, but not the car if they actually go through and buy it. It does feel wrong to take $5,000 from them though. I don't know if it's just my stupid pride or what. Update. I got a call from my sister. My brother Jay got arrested for stealing my grandpa's truck keys and hitting a street light about 2 miles out from their house last night. So my brother has not taken to his new living arrangements well at all. He hasn't gone out to look for work, and yesterday he was caught trying to break into my grandpa's safe right before he stole the truck. He was going too fast and unintentionally hit a street light. He didn't have any injuries, but the truck is possibly totaled, and my grandparents kicked him out too. He now has no home, and my parents have canceled his college fund and are using it to pay for my grandparents to get a new vehicle. Dad told me that he was going to try to surprise me with a new vehicle, but that idea was now out the window. To which I said I appreciate his offer, but I would have declined it anyway, because I have my reliable '01 Cherokee. My parents have practically disowned him, and it's all so crazy to me that he was never truly rebellious up until this week. I think he may be dealing with some serious mental crisis, and it wouldn't surprise me if his mugshot shows up on the local news. I'm not too well versed on psychology, mechanical engineering degree, so I ask, is there anyone out there with an idea as to why he may be going through this? Am I the jerk for asking a girl what's her highest level of education? I'm from the UK. I, 33 female, was at my dad's birthday party the other day, and we invited family and his close friends. My Uncle Harry, my dad's brother, recently divorced from his wife to be with his younger girlfriend, Jess. Mom and I are close to my aunt, Harry's ex, so we have already had some dislike towards Jess. Mom actually had invited Harry alone with no +1. Aunt refused to come since he was going to be there, but their kids came, but he brought her along anyway. Throughout the party, she shocked us with a few things she said. 1. When we were talking about travels, she said Harry took her to France and it was her first international travel and to a European country. Crowd was stunned, and she was denying that she is technically European and UK is in the European continent. She got angry and said, "Are you lot not up to date? We left Europe ages ago." 2. She thinks north is up. 3. She never locks her car because no one can start it without her keys anyway. And 4. She thinks hooking up when you're pregnant is what will cause you to have twins. This is just what I can remember. Just so you know, we didn't really ask her all of this. The conversation with the other ladies went over those subject matters. It was hijacked by her each time, and she gave us her thoughts on that, so it's not like we were picking on her. The part where I got irritated was when my mom's friend was asking how my fertility treatments were going. I'm on hormonal treatment to induce ovulation. Jess chimed in saying that those won't do any good and that I just have to eat right to repair myself. She went on and on about how her friend, who is strictly vegan, is on her third now. I merely asked her what's her highest level of education out of curiosity, because if she only had high school, I was going to go easy on her. Apparently that was the wrong thing to ask. She soured and tugged Harry to leave the house. Dad is now telling me to apologize to her for being rude. Harry told him that she kept throwing tantrums about me being very arrogant and rude to her. Now I do feel a teeny tiny bit bad for what I said now that I know about her troubles, but she sort of hit a sore spot about telling me what to eat as if I hadn't consulted a professional to repair myself. Not the jerk. As soon as anyone offers me unsolicited medical advice, I ask them where their medical degree is from, so I can't really fault you for this. It sounds like you held your tongue on a lot of her crap, and I don't know if I could have been so gracious. Am I the jerk for breaking up with my girlfriend when she tested me? When I was 16 years old, my girlfriend broke up with me. I was pathetic and begged her to change her mind. I thought I was in love and couldn't be without her. I was an idiot. I'm 25 now, and I've promised myself that I will never do that again. I've had several relationships, and when they end, I'm sad but not weak. I had been with my girlfriend for a year and a half. We met at a social function for people in our line of work. We hit it off and started seeing each other more often than made it exclusive. Recently, we've been talking about moving in together. Our city is expensive, and we thought we could save some money. Her apartment is bigger than mine, but I own mine, so we were working stuff out. Last weekend, out of nowhere, she says that we're moving too fast. Okay, no problem. We didn't make any plans that can't be undone yet. Nope, she said that she wanted to break up because she wasn't sure I was all in. I said, okay. Then she freaked out. Apparently it was a test to see if I would fight for her. Yeah, I don't do that anymore, and I do not appreciate mind games. So I told her that I would box up anything of hers that might be at my place and she could pick it up. She accused me of being a cold-hearted jerk that was just using her. I wasn't. I thought we had a future. I wasn't ready to propose or anything, but I thought she was the one. We had met each other's families, and she had spent last Christmas with us. My parents and sister love her. I loved her. My mom and dad called me to ask what was going on, and I told them. They think I'm being stubborn. My little sister says I'm being a complete jerk for not forgiving my ex. I just remember crying myself to sleep over a girl, and I refuse to do it again. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Nobody likes being the subject of weird relationship mind games, and the people that do it are always so surprised when they get dropped because of it. You can find someone better, someone confident in their relationship with you. Not the jerk. Tests are not okay, and fighting for someone who says they're leaving you is disrespectful and saying they don't know their own mind. My best friend is trying to steal my boyfriend. So my best friend and I, we're both 21 female, had been single for a while before about a year ago when my boyfriend and I met. He asked for my number. At first, I didn't entertain him because he's super attractive, and I thought it was a dare or a joke due to high school pranks that were played on me. However, he stuck around and proved that he actually liked me. When we made it official, I texted my best friend and I told her that I found a boyfriend. She was excited for me and asked for his picture, but I felt that the relationship was too new and volatile, so I didn't send her a picture. I told her I wasn't ready, and she was fine with that. She made a joke that he was probably ugly, but I didn't really respond to it and we didn't touch that issue again. Fast forward about 2 months, and I felt that we were more secure in the relationship. We took pictures while on a date, and I posted them on Instagram, tagging my boyfriend. Obviously, my best friend saw the post and messaged me, jokingly asking where I found such an attractive guy and if he had a brother. I laughed it off. Looking back, she said something that I hadn't paid much attention to at the time. She mentioned that I was lucky such an attractive guy chose me. It was a bit weird, but it aligned with our usual joking, so I didn't pursue it further. Yesterday, I was at my boyfriend's house and I was texting my best friend on Instagram. You know how on Instagram the username comes up big at the top of the chat? My boyfriend looked over and asked, "Who is that?" "Let's call my best friend Sophie." I replied, "That's Sophie." My boyfriend seemed shocked, and I asked him what was wrong. He pulled out his phone, opened Instagram, and I realized that he and Sophie had a message thread. I found that strange. After reading through the message thread, I discovered that after I tagged my boyfriend in the post, Sophie had messaged him, wanting to be friends without mentioning me, and she started flirting with him. He told her that he had a girlfriend, and she implied that she already knew and saw the photo, also mentioning that she was more attractive than me. My boyfriend didn't engage in conversation after that. I felt super betrayed, so I texted Sophie and I asked why she would message my boyfriend on Instagram. She said she messaged him to test if he would be faithful to me when the time comes. Now, I'm not sure what to believe. If she was testing him, she should have shared this information with you. Of course she was being shady. Your friend sounds like an insecure, jealous jerk. Hearing you found someone and immediately trying to knock you down a peg by saying he's probably ugly is very passive-aggressive towards you. Her messaging him without saying anything to you is another swipe at you. She's saying it was a test because he rejected her and you caught her, but her messaging him in the first place is born from her own insecurities and wanting to feel like she's better than you, like it's a competition. It's not, and she's simply a horrible person who's not mature enough to have some introspection or self-awareness about how she acts. She puts you down and is trying to take your boyfriend. She's not your friend, and you need to get rid of her ASAP, or I can guarantee you this type of girl will only continue to hurt you under the guise of, "It's just a joke," or "It's just a test." She's lying, cut her loose. Keep the guy. He's been honest and stood up for your relationship even when you weren't aware. Green flag for him, lose the friend though. She is not a friend. Am I the jerk for leaving dinner to get my son McDonald's even though food was served? A friend of my wife invited my family, my wife, who's 29, our son, who's 5, and me, 26, male, over for dinner with him, he's 30, and his daughter, who's 5. This friend has always followed a strict diet, which usually led us to eat at his place. But since our kids were infants, we hadn't seen him. For dinner, we were served salmon with quinoa and arugula. My son is usually very easygoing for a 5-year-old. He rarely throws tantrums and isn't a picky eater. However, I could tell from his behavior that he wasn't enjoying the meal. He was picking at his plate, shuffling food around, and although he tried the salmon, he didn't seem to like it. I asked him if he was happy with his dinner, and he said no. I responded with a casual remark like, "Kids, huh?" and asked if there was anything else for my son to eat. My wife's friend explained that his daughter just eats whatever he makes, so he doesn't keep kid food around the house. My wife said it was fine and that our son would be okay. While he's generally mild-mannered, he does get hangry, and it was only the beginning of the night, with potentially another hour or two ahead. I mentioned that our son needed to eat something to have energy for playing and apologized, explaining that I would be gone for just a few minutes to pick something up for him. My wife's friend seemed annoyed, but said he would try to keep my plate warm. I left for approximately 30 minutes and returned with a Happy Meal, including extra fries in case his daughter wanted some, although she wasn't allowed to have any. By the time I got back, dinner was winding down, my son ate his meal, we had dessert, and he went off to play with his friend. It was a minor hiccup during the evening, but overall things went well. We had a good time, although my wife seemed distant afterwards. When we got home, 3 hours after dinner, she told me that I had been rude for no reason at all. I explained that if I hadn't gotten our son food, he would have been difficult the entire way home. She responded that we would have left earlier. I expressed that I was simply trying to address the issue as it arose, and that if her friend had been more accommodating, we wouldn't have found ourselves in that situation in the first place. She got offended on her friend's behalf, and we decided to go to bed since we clearly weren't getting anywhere. It's been 2 days, and things are still tense between us. I'm unsure of where I went wrong. Am I the jerk for leaving dinner to go get my son food, even though dinner was served? You're the jerk. That was really rude, especially because they had a kid and you brought an obvious treat food into the house. If your kid is picky, bring granola bars along with you or something. And if you fail to do so, just handle it as it comes, the way your wife suggested. If your kid was going to be a monster, you could have left early and stopped at McDonald's on the way home. And your kid wasn't even complaining, and there was dessert coming. You way overreacted. Yeah, he overreacted. It was so rude to leave in the middle of a meal. What is OP teaching his son? Don't like your meal? No problem. Dad will get you McDonald's right away. OP, don't expect an invite back. Right. People don't realize that these little actions add up, and this is how we create entitled kids who think their parents are there to just get them what they want. I'll say everyone sucks here. He would have been fine skipping the meal. An egg and toast is a perfectly okay meal for a 5-year-old, and for OP to jump in his car to go get the kid something else was rude. Am I the jerk for taking all of the clothes in my size off the rack so resellers couldn't grab everything before I looked? Last week I had time and I stopped into a thrift store and they were just putting out stuff from their truck. I'm never so lucky to be there when that happens. The shops are always very picked over with just Old Navy or Target clothes whenever I get there, so I was happy that I might actually find something this time. I started browsing normally and I was finding some good stuff for once. Then I saw a group of 3 women walk in. One had a little computer for scanning books. The other 2 had iPads or something like that. I assumed to check the resale prices. Either way, they were clearly resellers and they started grabbing stuff after checking labels. I felt a sense of dread because I wouldn't be fast enough to check, so I just swooped everything off the rack and into my cart in my size. When the 2 got to me, they started staring. I asked, "What?" And one of them was like, "We'd like to be able to see what's on the rack too." I said that they could as soon as I was done. She scoffed at me and said, "That's rude. We'd like a chance to shop these clothes too." I just ignored her and started looking at things one by one, taking my time, then putting them right back on the rack. The women were getting mad and snatching things basically out of my hand. I held up a nice top and one of them tried grabbing it out of my hand and I said, "Excuse you," and turned my back to her. They got all upset and one stomped away to get a worker. The worker came over and asked what was going on. I said I was looking at the items from the rack, same as anyone else. They said I was hoarding everything, so they couldn't get a chance to look. The worker said that I wasn't doing anything wrong and then said to me, "Thank you for putting everything back when you're done." I finished what I was doing with the women breathing down my neck and took my clothes to go try on. One of them kept following me and asked me what my problem was, why I was being such a jerk, etc. I said, "Sorry that you're having a bad day, but it's really not my problem." Am I the jerk? I just wanted the chance to be able to find some nice clothes for once. From my point of view, I didn't do anything different than people who fill up their carts and go try on everything. Plus, I didn't even take all of the good clothes to begin with. Not the jerk. I donate a lot of nice clothing because I would like others who can't easily afford them to get them. Not so someone else can swoop in and sell my clothes for their profit. Sure, they're allowed to, but I'm okay with you grabbing the stuff in your size first over resellers. Plus, they had every other size to choose from. Now, if these were other women trying to shop for themselves, that would be a little bit different. Not the jerk. I'm pretty judgy about thrift resellers in general, but they would have done exactly the same thing you did if they had been there before you. The only difference is they would have been slightly more selective based on their researches. So, not the jerk. Kudos to the store employee for having your back. I hope you got some good finds. Not the jerk. Resellers have ruined thrifting. I've been thrifting for 15 years, and I used to find great stuff in my size all the time. Now it's just leftover Shein junk. They are the same as landlords in my opinion, and there are way more ethical professions. Not the jerk. Those people are the scourge of the charity community. Rather than supporting a place for people to buy needed items for cheaper, they look for profit. They take people's charitable donations and treat it like their business. "At least it's getting sold" is a silly argument. It's the equivalent of going to a farmer the day of harvest, buying all the best looking products for cheap, then reselling it at 50 to 100 times the price. It's messed up. They got huffy because you're stealing their profit. I absolutely loathe and detest the bottom feeders. You're the jerk. You're not entitled to first dibs on everything, and resellers prevent people from shopping fast fashion if they need something specific. Stop being jealous and gatekeeping secondhand stores. You're the jerk. I thrift often, and I would never do this petty crap. Also, you have no idea if they were resellers or not. You just assumed based on their vibe. Also, the fact that they approached you about it makes this story sketchy. You definitely took way more clothes than you're saying. Otherwise, no confrontation would have occurred. Everyone gets to thrift, not just you. Am I the jerk for forcing my fiancé to cut off contact with his late wife's family? I, 25 female, am getting married to my fiancé, 29 male, in May. When we first got together, he told me that he had been married from 20 to 22 years old to his high school sweetheart. We met when he was 25, but she had passed from sepsis from a botched surgery. He didn't cope well and stayed in contact with her family, namely father and two sisters, who are 19 and 24. It was a soft spot for me for a while at the beginning because there was so much history they had that we would not have, and it was tough knowing that she was all around him. I never told him and decided to work through it on my own, especially with the fact that he would often spend time with her family during our relationship. Her birthday, their anniversary, and anniversary of her passing, he'd spend the day with her family. It was uncomfortable at first, knowing the man I loved was reminiscing about the love that he had with someone else, but I kept trying to see it from his perspective, and the last couple of years, I'm completely secure in our relationship, and it doesn't bother me much anymore. Well, he proposed this time last year, and I was over the moon. I love this man with all of my heart, but I recently learned that he had never told them that we got engaged. I've been trying local coffee shops the past few months rather than my usual one, and I tried this new one. His late wife's sister worked there, and other than being awkward, she did a double take of my engagement ring and looked really unhappy. I didn't mention it and left. My fiancé told me that she kept messaging him on social media about it, and I wasn't happy that he kept it a secret. He apologized and was very depleted by this. He said that he didn't want to hide me, but he didn't want to hurt them either, and that both of us were a huge part of his life. I understand that, and I let him off the hook slightly, just told him to be upfront with them from now on. That was that, or at least I thought it was. A week ago, on Sunday, I got a message from the 24-year-old asking if I was happy with myself, that I would never replace his late wife, and that if she were still alive, he'd choose her over me every time. She even said that he only kept me around for my money and to use me. I ignored it, but I can't say that it didn't affect me. When you're in my position, all these points are ones you have to work through, and it's not easy to get over those insecurities. It feels like a knock to the teeth when they're used against you. I mentioned it to him, and he comforted me and reassured me. He said that he had set boundaries with her, and I'd never have to hear from her again. Fine by me. That was until I found my car with names smeared into the red paint, like grave robber. I had saved for this car for a year, and it was expensive, very expensive. The tires were slashed and the windows were cracked. I asked the store a few doors down for their CCTV camera footage of that night, but it was blurry and didn't catch much. It did manage to catch half a license plate though, and the color and make of a car. It was his late wife's youngest sister's car. I told him I was filing a police report, and he asked me to hold off until he talked to them first. I told him no, but I would if they paid for the damages and apologized to my face. He set up the meeting for last night, and it didn't go well to say the least. Everyone was shouting. The sisters told me they, yes, both of them, had nothing to be sorry for, and that I should leave their family alone, including my fiancé and their family. He told them that it wasn't fair to him to be lonely forever, and that he had hoped they'd be supportive of him finding love again. They told him he was betraying late wife, and that he never loved her if he'd marry someone else. They didn't have a problem with him having a new girlfriend because he had realized she was the only one for him and get tired of me. Now that hadn't happened, they were putting their foot down. The youngest told him to tell me that they were right and that he'd never love anyone else like late wife. My fiancé broke down at the table. I picked him up and made us leave. I told them I'd be filing a report and suing for damages, and the next time they saw us would be in court. When we got back and calmed down, I gave him an ultimatum. Either he cuts contact or we call off the wedding and go our separate ways. I wasn't going to live my life with this harassment and someday subject my kids to their bullying. He said they would never bully a kid, but I shot him down and said he didn't expect any of this either. He called their father, who was fairly chill about it all, but still defending his daughters. They say I shouldn't control him and that I'm horrible for cutting them off. I don't know what to do. I can't live like this, and I don't think I should have to just because we're getting married. Is the ring he gave you the same one he gave her? OP. No, the ring is actually my late grandmother's engagement ring. He asked my father if he could give it to me when he asked for his blessing. As weird as it sounds, I think the grave robber bit was about me stealing him from her grave. At least that's all I can get from it. I wouldn't be surprised if the 24-year-old is hoping to get with him. OP. A few people are saying this, and I'm creeped out by it. They play Dungeons & Dragons together once a week, and now I'm panicking. Did they continue to play after she sent that message to you? OP. No, he didn't attend this week's session to my knowledge. I just meant plays, as they're in the same campaign with 3 other people. I don't know what goes on there, and after what people are saying, I don't think I want to know. Why do you even want to be with him when there's this drama? OP. I see what everyone is saying, but it's not easy to turn off your love for someone. I'm seeing it now. Obviously, I don't want to be harassed and have my things ruined. I would prefer all of this to be cordial, but that's not the world I live in. If it were easy to flip the switch, I would have started packing on Sunday when I got the message, and he would have flipped the switch at his late wife's funeral. I may have been too patient until now, but that doesn't mean I'm weak. This is the crossroads, and I'm ready to take whichever path I have to. Let's hope he's ready too. Where are his parents in this? OP. They were old parents, in their late 40s when they had my fiance, so they've retired, and he never wants to bother them with anything. I doubt they even know about any of this. I might bring up that he needs to get their input because the way they're treating him is gross and wrong. Update the next day. I didn't sleep at all yesterday or the night before, for obvious reasons. There's a ding on my phone at least once an hour from them saying one thing or another, mainly the 19-year-old, and I don't know what they've told people, but I've got messages from one of their uncles and grandparents calling me names too. So obviously, they've been spreading what's happened this week and twisting it. I haven't blocked them because I want to gain as much evidence as I can for the inevitable case. Regardless of any outcome with my fiance, I will be suing and filing a criminal case for harassment and vandalism, and I'm looking for a restraining order. I just haven't had the mental fortitude to do so yet. I'm hoping my fiance will help me. I haven't spoken to my fiance since the argument at the table, other than to tell him that they go or I do. It was my choice to give him a couple days space to come to terms with everything, and I will contact him when I'm ready. All of this, from the first message until now, has been a week. It's a huge weight to contemplate leaving people you've known for 15 years and who you grew up with. He did set hard boundaries with the sister from the coffee shop, as I've seen the messages. He said, paraphrasing, "You have no right talking to OP at all if this is how you're going to behave. She doesn't deserve this, and you've gone too far. Why are you being like this?" And she responded with more name-calling and back and forth. He ended by saying not to message me again and to make sure everyone else does the same. I was happy with that. At this point, only one person in that family had an issue, to my knowledge, so it was silly to have him cut off all of them. It may not be enough for some, but it was enough for me to feel safe and comfortable. For those saying he needs therapy and counseling, he's already getting it. He's been getting it since before we even started dating after an incident at work. I don't know about any of their family though. The first time I had a conversation with any of them was that night. I also want to clear up the not calling the police about the car thing. It was entirely my idea to not file charges in exchange for a face-to-face apology and damage payment. He only wanted me to wait so that he could talk to her to see if she regretted it and then have her father pay the damages. At the time, we thought it was just the 19-year-old that smashed my car, not both daughters. Neither of us wanted to ruin her life. When I found out it was both of them, it was full-on steam ahead. Update 2. My fiance came over bright and early this morning, and I've never been so tired. First of all, I want to set the record straight here. A lot of people are coming for my fiance over not cutting them off from the get-go, which I don't think is fair. He's a very mild-mannered, calm, and calculating person, and that's who I always knew he was. Nothing has changed. If he had been Rocky Balboa and flipped the cafe table shouting at them, he would not have been the man I fell in love with. He did exactly what I expected him to do and exactly what I was comfortable with. You may be attracted to other things in men and expect other things, and that's awesome, but not me. I texted him saying I thought it was time to discuss this, and he was back at home not a half hour later. He had been staying with a friend, and the couple of nights we'd had no contact. We sat on our bed to talk because my back is sore from all of the packing, and I wasn't going to force myself to sit at the table. Before we even got to talking, he asked if we could cuddle for a minute. It definitely took some of the weight off my shoulders, and we were able to talk like a couple and not awkward strangers because, regardless of some people's beliefs, we do love each other, and it took me a very long time to feel confident in that fact. Before anyone calls me a doormat again, no, I was still sure I would stick to my ultimatum. The first thing I asked was if he had felt he had enough time to make his decision, and he said he didn't need time. He was very shocked and bewildered at how so much could change in just a week, and how everything he knew was shook up that he couldn't even think and went numb. He did apologize that he didn't take a more defensive stance at the cafe, and he doesn't want to make excuses for it. An explanation was that he genuinely didn't expect such a vitriolic response. He hid the engagement because he knew they weren't over late wife's passing and would be upset at the news. It wasn't like I would feel upset by them not knowing, which I wasn't really. He's known these girls since before they were in double digits, and he would never have thought them capable of it. It came so far out of left field that he froze. I asked him if there was any possibility that either of them had a thing for him, and he looked very confused and disturbed. I said how I've had people tell me it's not uncommon for siblings to do this after loss, and he thought on it. Turns out, you were right. He said the 24-year-old, about 8 months after late wife's passing, made a move and tried to kiss him. He immediately left and told her mother about it. Mother and father are divorced now, but they weren't then. It was years ago, so he had forgotten it ever happened. He said he was sure that wasn't the case now because it had been so long, but I'm not convinced. Not that it matters anymore. He opened up his Facebook and gave it to me to read. 24-year-old had been messaging him, which he ignored. She ranged from telling him off to crying and saying how betrayed the family was to trying to manipulate him against me. He said he was sure that he needed to put them behind him and had been thinking it on and off since he proposed, but couldn't bring himself to do it. After this week, the fire was lit and he knew what he had to do. It was all just abstract until suddenly it was very real. He asked me how I'd been coping, and I told him. I felt like I had done everything right, but somehow things turned out worse than if I'd been the jealous type and stopped their contact at the beginning. I tried to be understanding and put in so much effort to be secure in myself and our relationship, only for everything I worked on to be thrown in my face like I was a mistress that was caught cheating with him. He didn't blink the entire time and just listened. He said he should have been more observant and realized I was struggling with this so that he could help me, but I've always been the strong one, so he neglected to, but he'll do better. On the subject of moving, I made it clear that I would not be living in this house any longer than I had to, and he completely agreed. His parents offered to find us a place in their state if we wanted to have more of a support network, and I'm honestly considering it after all of this. They're only a state away from my own family, so we'd be a lot better off. His job is remote, and I should be able to find work there easily enough. I've been in contact with a friend who's a mechanic, and they've quoted me between $1,000 to $2,000 for the damages, but that's an at-cost estimate as a discount. A few people have said to get a real statement and to shop around. The real cost is between $4,000 to $5,000, and that's just for the noticeable damage. My friend thinks they've done something to the engine, so thank goodness I couldn't drive it anywhere. He thinks I may be entitled to a replacement car altogether. If so, I'll be sure to sue for it, and that's not going to be cheap. To finish, I made a point of asking him again if he would cut them off or I had to go. He didn't miss a beat and said that they're no longer going to be a part of his life, even if I decided to leave. He did ask for one last meeting to say goodbye to her parents and to put a close on that part of his life, and to explain to the girls that this is not my fault, but his decision after seeing how cruel they were capable of being. After that, he would block them on everything and move forward. I was completely fine with that. Am I the jerk for not letting my kids ride 4 hours home with their grandmother? Around 1 a.m., there was a terrible crash as my mother-in-law, who's 70, decided to try to navigate our stairs in the dark while wearing a breathing machine. I immediately started calling 911, but my wife, who is a nurse, told me not to call as her mother had no obviously broken bones and didn't want to go. I'm not a medical professional, and it's seldom wise to argue with a nurse or one's wife, but I pressed for them to at least let me drive her to the ER if they refused an ambulance, but all to no avail. This was just a couple of hours ago, and she's now in the bed with an ice pack and a couple of Tylenol. In the morning, she wants to drive home and take my daughter, who's 9, and my son, who's 13, to her place for the week. This has been planned for weeks, and I would have no issues with it, except for the fact that she had fallen down the stairs and could have a concussion. I love her, and I don't want her to drive at all, and I asked her to stay a couple of extra days, but if she insists on going, then I can't stop her. I told my wife I was uncomfortable with them riding with her given the danger, and she thinks I'm being silly, which I don't understand at all, as she's a very competent nurse. I finally told her that everyone could be mad at me, but it simply wasn't an option. I'll take the day off and drive them if I must, but I won't take any chances. Am I the jerk? I'm a nurse, and I'm frankly appalled at your wife's decision to not take her mother to the ER. A 70-year-old who suffers a fall and sustains head injuries could absolutely be checked out in the ER, whether or not your wife, your mother, or the Easter Bunny believe it isn't necessary. If she absolutely refuses to go, then you tell her that your kids won't be staying with grandma at her house. She could be suffering from a concussion. Update. Well, my mother-in-law was alive and conscious when we woke up this morning. My wife stayed up to watch over her through the night. I spoke to my wife this morning and I explained how I felt about everything again. She sheepishly relented and agreed the kids would stay home and that she would encourage her mom to go to the ER. I spoke to my mother-in-law again and asked her to let me take her to the ER, and she shared that her primary reason for refusing medical care was a fear of the cost in doing so. Unfortunately, that's a serious concern for many folks here in the US. Anyways, hearing that, I firmly insisted that she go and told her that we'd cover any costs. She and my wife finally went to the ER, and after several hours and copious tests, it was in fact determined that she had a concussion as well as rib and wrist fractures and soft tissue injuries. My wife was pretty devastated with the diagnosis and was deeply apologetic and remorseful. My mother-in-law will be in the hospital until at least tomorrow. All in all, I'm thankful that things didn't end up worse. The kids only cared about their grandma being okay. Some answers to questions that were asked. My mother-in-law is a retired school teacher on a very limited fixed income, along with my father-in-law. There's no inheritance or other reason my wife would have wished her ill. They have a great relationship. My wife sprang out of bed the moment the accident happened and was almost detached and clinical at the moment, but was later extremely emotional. Her father had a major stroke last year, and we actually just sold our house Friday in order to move closer to her parents to help take care of them in their old age. My parents wasted all their money and now expect me to support them financially. I, 31 female, have been living out of home since I was 18. I left uni with a mid-size amount of debt, but I've managed to pay it off and I'll also save over £8,000 over the last 10 years. I have scrimped and saved to get to this point. My parents are good people and I love them, but they have made some terrible financial decisions over the years. When my grandmother passed, her house was sold and my parents received about £90,000. They treated my brother and I to an amazing Christmas and a lovely holiday. They also renovated parts of our family home. After all this, they still had about £50,000 left and, by their own admission, frittered away the remaining money rather than saving it. By the time I started uni 2 years later, I was told that I would need to take out student loans to pay for my fees. 8 years ago, they told us they were going to sell the family home and downsize to a flat. They managed to sell the house quickly and received about £250,000 for it. But there was nothing on the property market that they liked, so they decided to rent for a while until they found something they did. Within 3 years, all of the money was gone. Again, frittered away with nothing to show for it. Now they're in their 60s and renting for the foreseeable future with only a small pension each. My dad will be forced to retire next year and they can't afford their current rent without his salary. They have asked me for loans multiple times just to tide them over until payday. They do always repay the loans to me, but I've started feeling resentful of giving them money at all. My partner and I are trying to buy a flat, and all of my friends who currently own property have received help from their parents with a deposit. Not only are my parents unable to help me with this, they actively borrow money from my savings on a regular basis. Earlier this week, we were having a family meal for my dad's birthday. My parents were asking my partner and I about our property situation and asked if we would consider buying a 2-bedroom flat so they could move in with us and not worry about rent. I laughed at first, thinking that they were joking, but then realized they were serious. I told them that we wouldn't be doing that, as A, we couldn't afford a 2-bedroom flat, and B, even if we could, it's not my responsibility to house them. My dad argued that he and my mom had provided for me over the years, and now it's my turn to repay them. I told them that I've been virtually on my own since I turned 18, and just because they made poor financial decisions over the years, I shouldn't have to foot the bill. I said that I resent the fact that they could have helped me with my uni and maybe even a flat deposit, but instead, they spent their way into a life of living hand to mouth. This did not go down well. Both of them erupted at me and called me ungrateful. My brother told me that I was being entitled. Even my partner said I was overly harsh. Am I the jerk here? Not the jerk. Your language was harsh, but your parents misspent at least £300,000 according to your post, and now they expect to live for free off you for the next 30 years or so? No. Stop lending them money immediately. Your parents need to learn to live within their, albeit limited, means. Goodbye, Internet. At my last job, my main duty was the IT manager for the entire location, among other duties. I had been there for about 3.5 years at that point, and I was trusted by everyone. If I had something important to say, people listened. During lockdown, while other departments' budgets were getting slashed and employees were getting laid off, I was able to replace a lot of our aging IT infrastructure. At the beginning of my last year there, the owner hires a young, I only tell the truth, even though you won't like it, narcissist as his second in charge. He hired this bonehead as his successor to run this location, while the owner would focus on opening up a second. In the first 3 months, Bonehead upset everyone, to the point where 15 people from various positions leave the company to find other jobs. This is during lockdown, where a lot of people were thankful they had a job, and 15 people were like, I'm going to risk finding another job in the middle of lockdown rather than stay here. He was that bad. As Bonehead started to upset our customer base and our sales started to suffer, we switched over to cost-cutting mode. The owner had largely checked out at this point, so longtime vendors were replaced with friends and family of Bonehead, services were downgraded or cut, pay plans for the sales department were jacked with, and further eroded the morale of the workforce. One day, Bonehead comes to me and tells me to stop doing safety checks and maintenance repairs on our products so sales could post larger sales grosses. I loudly objected and went to the owner, but as the owner is always happy to hear something about making more money, he threw his support behind Bonehead's idea. A few months of this goes by, and after he fired one of my employees on my birthday because he refused to give Bonehead access to the server room, it was restricted to me, owner, and employee. I knew it was time to go. I find a new job, put in my 2 weeks notice, and of course, Bonehead stops my direct deposit on payday, the day after I put my 2 weeks in. I decide it isn't worth working the extra 2 weeks and inform them that I'm out of there, while filing with the state over my wages being withheld. As I'm walking out the door, Bonehead reminds me I'm no longer an employee of the company and not to get involved with the company's affairs and possible legal repercussions if I say anything negative about the company. My new job pays more, less hours, less stress. Fast forward to this Monday, I get a call from my local internet provider. They tell me my internet service bill has gone unpaid for the last 6 months and will get cut off if I don't pay immediately. I log in and see my account is paid. So after a few back and forth, I find out that I'm still the point of contact for my last job's account on their internet service. Remembering what was told to me when I left, I just informed them I could not get involved as I no longer work there. They asked me for an updated point of contact. If they cannot get one, they will be forced to suspend their service. I repeated, I'm not allowed by threat of legal action to be involved in their affairs and left it at that. An hour later, a buddy I know who still works there called me and told me they had to stop working as their internet service had shut off. I played stupid, but it took 3 days to restore it. Today I messed up by trying to impress a girl with my amazing cooking skills. So this happened last night and I'm still cringing at the thought of it. There's this girl I've been crushing on for a while now, and I finally managed to ask her out. She said yes, and I decided to invite her over to my place for dinner. I thought, hey, I can cook a decent meal, and girls love guys who can cook, right? Oh boy, how wrong I was. I decided to make us some fancy pasta dish I saw on one of those cooking shows. You know, the kind where they use words like al dente and reduction to make it sound like they're doing some next level stuff. I went all out, bought the ingredients, and even got a little bottle of wine to set the mood. Fast forward to the evening. She arrives, and I'm already sweating bullets. I start cooking, trying to play it cool, like I'm some sort of culinary genius. She's sitting at the counter watching me, and I can feel the pressure mounting. I'm chopping onions like a madman, trying to impress her with my knife skills, when I accidentally got my finger. It started to bleed, and I'm trying to play it off like it's no big deal. She's clearly concerned, but I assure her it's just a flesh wound. I wrap my finger in a paper towel and soldier on like the culinary warrior I am. I toss the pasta into the boiling water, and in my haste, I forgot to set a timer. No biggie, I think. I'll just wing it. Meanwhile, I'm trying to make small talk, but my mind is racing, and I'm pretty sure I'm just spewing out random facts about pasta and Italian cuisine. She's nodding along, probably questioning her life choices at this point. As I'm stirring the sauce, I realize I haven't tasted it yet. I grab a spoon, take a taste, and it's saltier than the Dead Sea. I must have mistaken the salt container for the sugar one in my nervous state.
Panicking, I remember reading somewhere that adding a potato can help absorb the excess salt. So I grab a potato, peel it, chuck it into the sauce like it's some sort of magical salt-absorbing grenade. I finally decide to check on the pasta, and it's turned into a mushy, overcooked mess. At this point, I'm ready to admit defeat, but I figure I've come this far, so I might as well see it through. I drain the pasta, plate it up, and pour the sauce over it, potato and all. I set the plates down, trying to hide my shame, and we dig in. The first bite is a disaster. The pasta is a soggy mess. The sauce is still saltier than a sailor's vocabulary, and the potato is just sitting there, mocking me. She's trying to be polite, but I can see that she's going to need a gallon of water to wash down this culinary catastrophe. I refuse to admit defeat, so I muster up the most convincing smile I can and say, "Bon appetit!" She hesitates for a moment, then takes another bite, clearly trying to be polite. I can see the fear in her eyes, but I just keep shoveling the salty, soggy disaster into my mouth, pretending like it's the best thing I've ever had. As we continue eating, I try to salvage the situation by making more small talk, but it's clear that this meal has absolutely ruined the evening. She's giving me one-word answers and nervously glancing at the door, probably planning her escape route. Finally, she can't take it anymore. She puts down her fork, looks me dead in the eye, and says, "I'm sorry, but I just remembered I have an early morning tomorrow. I should probably get going." I can see the relief wash over her face as she stands up, and I know I've royally messed up. I walk her to the door, trying to play it cool, like I'm not a complete and utter fool. She gives me a half-hearted hug and says, "Thanks for dinner. It was interesting." And with that, she's gone, leaving me alone with my salty, soggy pasta and bruised ego. Bro, admit defeat to the girl next time and order delivery. Don't force your date to eat a trash meal. Where your real mess up was here is that you didn't realize that the effort is worth more than the result. Am I the jerk for ending things with my girlfriend after she filed a lawsuit against me for $250,000? Me, 20 male, and my girlfriend, 21 female, have been together for almost 4 years. 2 years ago, when I was 18, I was driving and we got into a bad accident after being T-boned by a truck. The accident was entirely my fault. I had only minor injuries while she suffered a deep gash on her hand. We paid out of pocket for the initial hospital expense and all subsequent medical expenses, including physical therapy and psychiatric therapy. She missed a week of work and regained use of her whole hand in a few months. I would say at the time of writing this, she's about 90% operational with that hand. This whole time, I felt absolutely awful, and I was with her as often as I could be, trying to be as supportive as possible. It was the least that I could do. Now, 2 years later, just days before the statute of limitations on the case expires, I get served papers that my girlfriend and her family are going for everything in my insurance, including a $250,000 coverage. Her claims are for mental anguish along with permanent damage to her hand. She never told me about this in the past 2 years, despite apparently knowing she would go through with this lawsuit the entire time. Understandably, I was upset, but she is many miles away this summer in Alaska, and it's been difficult to communicate with her. She insists she's doing what's best for her and wants to use the money for us and our future. But I feel hurt and betrayed that she never told me that, first off, that she was feeling so bad about the accident still, and second, that she won't talk to me about the lawsuit and went behind my back to file it. I have trouble picturing a future with somebody that would go behind my back and decide to make a big decision like this without telling me. I want to try and choose forgiveness here, but I'm having trouble getting past this betrayal. Am I in the wrong for this, or should I simply accept that it's what's best for her and that she wants to use it for our future? People are big time dumb. There's so much bad information on this thread. I normally lurk, but I literally made an account to type this because Reddit is Redditing extra hard today. I'm an insurance defense attorney. This is literally my job. I will not give you legal advice other than contact your insurance ASAP regarding the suit. First thing is to call your insurer and inform them about the suit. They will assign an attorney to the case and begin your defense. She was probably given strict instructions from her personal injury attorney to not speak to you about the case, which is why she never mentioned it to you. This protects both you and her. Most states don't allow what is called direct actions. That means that she can't sue your insurer directly. She has to sue you instead, and then the insurance can step in for the coverage. The damages that she is alleging are all pretty standard for PI cases. Your attorney and hers will fight about the actual damages she sustained and most likely reach a settlement amount. Most cases settle before going to trial. Cases like this are not uncommon. I've represented husbands and wives that are sued by their spouses, kids, and parents. Or family members or best friends. It's just a function of the law and how insurance works. Call your insurance company and get an attorney and discuss your next steps. As for your relationship, talk to your attorney first. You will probably feel better once you get a better understanding of the legal process, or at least have a better understanding of why it was done the way it was. Then make a decision regarding the next steps. Nope, I'd break up with her. The level of deceit is crazy. Tell her she can do as she pleases with herself and the money, but you're done. You can't be with someone who does this behind your back, like a snake. My fiance broke up with me because my parents have a non-conventional marriage. We've been together for 6 years. We've known each other for another 3 years before that, so 9 years total. We're getting married in February. Or we were. I don't know anymore. We were visiting my parents to meet some more of my extended family so they get to know him before the wedding. My parents offered to host us, and we've been staying in my old room. I'm 29 female, and he's 32 male. We're staying with my parents. My fiance wanted to stay at a hotel, but I thought it would be fun to stay in my old room and to be here with my mom and dad one last time under their roof before I became a married woman. My parents have been in a non-conventional marriage for a long time. It was a shock for me to learn about it, and I learned to cope with it. I'm not necessarily comfortable with their lifestyles, but I can't do anything about it. They basically go on dates with other people, spend time with other people, hook up with others. I freaked out back when I first learned about it, and my parents had to explain to me that it was all fine. So my fiance could not sleep last night, and he went outside for some fresh air because he's not used to sleeping away from our bed back home. And he saw my mom kissing another guy in my parents' foyer. So he freaked out, started yelling, came and woke me up, demanded I call my father and tell him that he found my mom cheating on him. So my mom had to explain to my fiance about my parents' non-conventional marriage, but it didn't go well with him. And once it seemed like he was calming down and starting to accept what my mom was telling him, he figured out I knew about their marriage, and he started freaking out on me. He told me that he can't trust me anymore, that he was set up, that I insisted we stay with our parents so that I can ease him into this idea, so I can enforce my parents' principles on our marriage, and I simply can't get through to him. My fiance had been cheated on before. His parents have divorced because his mom cheated on his dad, and he doesn't have a good relationship with her. He could barely stomach the idea of having her come to our wedding. He went to a hotel for tonight and said he'll be leaving back home tomorrow. He's not really answering his phone or texting back. He says he needs to reevaluate our engagement, that he doesn't think he can marry me knowing I approve of my parents' marriage style, that I wanted to manipulate him and introduce this lifestyle into our relationship. The truth is, I'm ashamed of my parents and their relationship, and I had no idea they would behave like this while my fiance was around. He simply doesn't believe me because I haven't talked about it since I've met him. It's not something I find easy to talk about, and the less I think about it, the better. How can I talk with him? I have no interest in my parents' style of relationship. I'm fully dedicated to my fiance, and I've never been interested in another person since I've met him. I don't want to lose him over this stupid thing, and I feel ashamed he had to find out about my parents like this. I'd have preferred he never knew. Please, if anyone has any ideas, give me suggestions. Yeah, you let him learn about this in the worst possible way. I'm not excusing his behavior, but I get his reaction. You insisted on staying in their house, and you knew his past issues. I would totally expect you to have told him by now. You're engaged, and your parents' very alternate, to him, lifestyle is a big issue. It's not your parents' responsibility to cater to his needs when it's their home, and their actions not a secret. You seem to be not understanding at all that you should not have hid this, and wanting him to never know is the wrong idea to begin with and what got you into this mess. Stop hiding crap like this and share it in a way that makes it clear you don't approve. OP. I would have at least expected my parents to be able to control themselves, at least for the few days we were supposed to be here, but I guess that was too much to wish for. I didn't necessarily hide this from him, but it never came about. And I'm so uncomfortable talking about it. It was never something I even thought of mentioning. He doesn't talk about his mom that much. I learned what I did about her and how his parents' marriage ended from his sister. And honestly, I thought it would be nice to sleep in my old room and be there one last time before I get married. There were no malicious intentions here. Update. I've already talked with him, and I'm staying in the hotel with him tonight, since it's already paid for and it'll be fun. Tomorrow we will move to my grandma's house until the end of the week. We came here to meet the extended family, and that's what we'll do. My parents have finally found it within themselves to apologize, but it no longer matters. For what it's worth, I didn't blame the situation on my parents when we met earlier. Aside from what my parents do in their spare time, I never had a secret from him. He knows I know about his mom, and I told him that if he ever wants to talk about her, I'm here to listen, and I understand why he avoids talking about her. He also apologized for his outburst and reaction, but he was honest and told me he doesn't think he will be that close to my parents in general, and I'm fine with that since I don't have that close of a relationship with them anyway. I've told him how much he hurt me by saying that he needs to reevaluate our engagement, and he acknowledges he wasn't thinking when he spoke those words, and also said he regrets them so much he was afraid he damaged our relationship. He didn't damage it, but I told him if I could predict the future, flowers is what I'd see. My parents justified themselves by saying it was a planned night, which I find ridiculous, as they had invited us to stay with them over a month ago. How far along in the future do you plan your fun nights? I refuse to think they planned this more than a month ago. Bottom line is, they knew we would be there. They invited us and they didn't care. The idea of not inviting them to the wedding started floating through my mind yesterday while reading the thread, but I'm not sure what I'll end up doing. They are my parents, they are my responsibility. My fiance got to see them for who they are and how they are for himself. He now knows why I don't really talk about them. Aside from our little bump in the relationship the other night, we should be fine. We actually ordered 2 books from Amazon with all kinds of relationship tests and lessons. And maybe we'll even go to therapy as a couple, which is not yet set in stone, but we'll see. Am I the jerk for not wanting to date a police officer? 2 months ago, there was a dispute in my building. I, 25 female, was coming home when I noticed 2 police officers waiting for the elevator. I would have waited for the next one, but we only have 2 elevators and one was broken. I rode up with the officers and I was surprised to see that we all got off on the same floor, mine. Apparently the disturbance was the unit next to mine. I've only lived here for 3 months, so I don't know any of my neighbors. I didn't think too much of it at the time and I went into my unit and closed the door. About 30 minutes later, I hear a knock at my door. It was one of the officers that I had ridden up with on the elevator. He asked me to open the door, but I was hesitant, so I asked if we could just talk through the closed door. He showed me his badge through the peephole, I guess to make me feel safer, but it didn't help. He told me that he needed to see my identification because I might be a witness to what occurred in the unit next to mine. I told him that I had seen nothing, so I wouldn't be a big help. He told me that either I talk to him now or I have to go to the police station in the morning, which could take all day. I'm a student. I couldn't take off a whole day to talk about an incident, so I agreed. He didn't come inside my place. We chatted at my door. He asked me for my ID, so I gave him my driver's license. He wrote down my information, my number as well, and told me that he would be in contact. 2 days later, I spotted him at my building after coming home from class. He asked me how my neighbors were doing, and I said fine, and tried to get into my building. He stopped me and said that he thought he and I had chemistry the night we met, and he asked me out. I told him that I had a boyfriend, a lie, and I sidestepped him into my building. The next day, I get a call from my grandmother. She tells me that a nice police officer came by and was asking very personal questions about me. The person she described sounds exactly like the officer who asked me out. My license has my grandmother's address. I was living with her before, and I haven't had time to go change it. At this point, I was freaking out. I told her not to talk to him and not to answer the door if he comes back. 2 weeks ago, I'm walking home from class, and I jaywalked to get to my building. I hear someone calling my name, so I turn around, and it's the officer again. He tells me that he could fine me for jaywalking because it's illegal, but he won't if I go out with him. I told him again that I'm seeing someone, but he tells me that my grandmother told him that I was single. I told him that it's a new relationship, so she wouldn't know. He said that he would hold off on the jaywalking ticket, but not for long. It's been a few weeks since that confrontation, but I see him pretty often. I live in a safe neighborhood, but he always seems to be parking in the places that I go to. I'm on a student visa. I'm Canadian. I can't afford to have a ticket on my record, but I'm also very worried that this officer will escalate the situation if I don't go out with him. I told one of my closest friends about this, and she told me that what he's doing was very romantic and that I'm a jerk for not going out with him. Report him to your community's Bureau of Internal Affairs. Get a lawyer to file an emergency restraining order. This is not normal behavior. Try not to go anywhere alone, especially at night. Be careful. Am I the jerk for telling my mom I did not want her there when I got home from deployment? I, 21 male, have been deployed for the past 10 months and I'll be getting home in 1 week. My wife and I's plan was for her to be the only one to know the date that I was coming back, so that when I get leave, we can go back and surprise all of our family and friends. My wife, 21 female, visited home a couple of weeks ago for a family event, and while she was there, she spent a day with my mom and 2 younger sisters. My mother is very pushy and hates surprises. So much so that surprising her by coming home would make her mad at me. My wife and I knew we would eventually have to tell her because of this, but we're waiting until the last minute because she would have told my sisters if she knew my date. Well, while my wife was there, my mom pushed and pushed, telling her that she wouldn't speak to her, let the girls go places, and she had to know so she could take days off of work. My wife gave her a week range of my leave, a couple of weeks after I get back, so that she could request off. Well, my mom texted me today, telling me that she would be here for the welcome home when my plane lands. I asked if she cleared this with my wife, seeing as she apparently planned to stay with us in our one-bedroom apartment, and she said no. I asked if the girls knew and were coming along too, and she said no. My mom has done a few things that presses between my wife and I, so I lost it on her. I told her I wouldn't be giving her the date that I fly in, that if I wanted her there, I would want my sisters there as well. I stopped there until she started complaining that she was a single mom who raised me on her own and that I should want to see her first. That's when I told her I didn't want her in my house at all when I first get home. I'm a married, grown man now. I don't need my mom. I want to see and spend time with my wife first and foremost. She pressured further, saying,
"I've been here for you since before you were born. She's been here for 4 years."
Eventually trash-talking my wife, saying she doesn't even have a real job and doesn't contribute. My wife is a nanny while she is in school, and she gets paid well, so she absolutely does contribute more than enough. This is where I may be the jerk. I told my mom that I was tired of her badgering, that I wanted to come home to my wife and be alone in our home with our pets. My wife and I would not want to host her, and we wanted the house to ourselves so that we can enjoy ourselves however we want to, because we haven't seen each other in a long time. My mom cried. She's sending me long paragraph texts every few hours about how she doesn't know where her caring son went, about how I need to let my wife go because I use her, about how I don't care about my family at all. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Good job finally standing up to her. Stop giving her info and stop talking to her. Mom, until you learn to act like an adult and stop trash talking my wife to me, I will not be communicating with you. I'm very disappointed in you and how incredibly selfish and immature you're acting. Don't make your wife deal with this jerk. Am I the jerk for hiding my wealth from my family? I'm 34. I'm the oldest of 5 and I'm married and we have 1 kid. My wife and I keep our finances separate. She knows I have money, but I don't think she realizes how much I've put away over the years. My siblings, in-laws, and parents are awful with money. They buy a new vehicle every couple of years they can barely afford, spend money on unnecessary stuff and vacations. Recently, my sister told me her car is 3 months behind, and she keeps borrowing money from my parents to pay it. My parents told me they maxed out their credit card and they aren't sure how to go about it. They didn't mention the amount. My in-laws said money is tight and they're 4 months behind on their mortgage. My brother says he defaulted on a $4,000 loan that sounded horrible. It makes me sick to think about, especially when they confide in me these things, and I feel like I should help them because I can, but I worry about being taken advantage of. I also feel that they put themselves in these situations. My parents have plenty of toys, boats, kayaks, 2 campers, etc. that they could sell. My in-laws both drive very expensive SUVs, including a new BMW. My sister put a whole trip overseas on a credit card. I watched them spend money in shops. One has 4 to 6 Stanley water bottles because they want colors to match their outfit. Meanwhile, I have everything paid off besides the house. I have $82,000 in savings, $250,000 in my 401k. My income is very good, and I think my family suspects that because they know what I do for work. I was planning on continuing to save and buy a new Porsche with cash, obviously having some left over. But my guilt factor is telling me I should help family before getting a fancy car that I've been wanting. I would hate for my in-laws to lose the house and have my nieces and nephews on the street, or worse, while I drive around in a new car. I also, as bad as it sounds, don't want anyone moving in with me. Edit. I guess I realized I complained more about their spending and didn't really mention the other stuff going on. They have issues like a furnace that broke and only works at 30%, so their house gets super cold during the winter. So much so that they have blankets everywhere and move the kids downstairs. My nieces and nephews have medical things that are not being taken care of. They miss out on after-school activities because no one can pay for it. If my sister loses the car, she loses her ability to get to work, as she chose to move to a big city where she knows no one and has a 45-minute commute to work. If anything, the guilt mainly comes from not taking care of my nieces and nephews and blaming their parents. and I just don't want people to be homeless. About 14 years ago, I slept in my car for a month during winter with only $100 in my bank account while I tried to save up for a deposit for an apartment. I only made $8.75 an hour then. It was miserable, cold, embarrassing. I remember going to Quick Trip for hot food because I was tired of protein bars, bread, and peanut butter. These kids hit my car with snowballs and ice, waking me up once, and then were like, "Oh crap, someone's sleeping in there," and said other things that made me sick. To answer some questions and concerns, yes, I have a 529 set up for the kid. They are 4 and they are set, even if college rates continue to rise. The company I worked for paid 3 years of my college and it was a tremendous help. It's not my money, so I didn't list it. I have $40,000 in non-liquid assets. I make $175K a year, which included a $50,000 raise I got 3 years ago, and I never changed my spending habits. It helped me greatly hold my savings in both my retirement and normal life, and pay off the truck and camper. I owe less than $190,000 on a $300,000 home, and I don't plan on buying my Porsche until the kid is in school and I don't have to pay $1,000 a month in childcare. I don't plan on blowing all of my savings on it, more than likely using $40,000 to $50,000 of the savings. Some may think pay off the house or that it's stupid to buy, but I'm a big car enthusiast and it would be great to own. My wife and I have been together for 10 years. We've kept finances separate. Both of our parents have fought about money or made it a big deal, so we just keep it separate. She Venmos me half the mortgage and utilities every month. I cover groceries and childcare in full. It works. We do have a joint account we put money into for house and kids stuff that comes up. I have an HSA I open for medical bills and put money into every paycheck. Every medical bill that has come up, that account has covered. My company matches a good amount too. To sum up, I didn't mention this because I felt it wasn't relevant. The $82,000 is mainly my money I have that I could use to help my family rather than blow it on myself. Not the jerk. Their financial issues are not caused by circumstances outside of their control. It's not like they're drowning in medical debt. They've overspent on needless luxuries. If you help them, you will 100% be taken advantage of. I don't even think they'll do it deliberately. They just lack the knowledge and habits to act any differently. Giving them cash doesn't fix their financial mindset or discipline issues. I, 31 male, caught my girlfriend who's 28 posting online about how much she misses her ex. I'm furious. I've been dating a girl for about 8 months. We've been official for about 5 months now. Everything has been good. We go many places. We enjoy each other's company. We play games, watch movies, and introduced each other to our families. Things are great, except for one thing. She is massively insecure. Everything can be going great, and then one of her insecurities will flare up, and it will immediately become my problem, which causes anything from minor annoyance to an argument, and I can never predict when it will happen. We could be having a great day, until she starts getting nosy about why I'm checking my phone. Or she'll start getting antsy and accusatory over who I'm following or liking on social media, which is none of her business, and I shut that down because I'm doing nothing wrong and I'm not getting blamed for pixels on a screen. These random outbursts have caused a lot of tension, and sometimes it makes me feel like I'm being accused of disloyalty when I've been nothing but honest. I try to have a mature conversation whenever it comes up, but she doesn't process it well, and suddenly I'm on the spot because she does something like obsess over my Twitter account that I barely use. I'm not even liking anything political or nefarious, but I just like creative cosplay pics every now and then, alongside random memes and video game stuff, which I told her isn't okay. It really ticks me off because it's been the one big wrinkle in an otherwise very nice relationship. Fast forward to last week. We were planning to travel to a nearby city and celebrate something when a few days prior, I happened to check her Reddit. She posts about a lot of things, but then I found her poking around the breakup subreddit multiple times in the past few months about how much she still misses her ex. The same ex who she told me mistreated her and threw her away over a year ago. The most recent being just days earlier. I was furious, but I tried to ignore it. At our celebration, everything was going well, until she made another slide about something out of nowhere that suggested I was lying about something I said, and I just got angry and went off on her about the posts, because I'm tired of being treated like I'm the bad guy every time she has a random insecure outburst when I've done nothing wrong. She apologized, claimed she was still processing the breakup and didn't want him anymore, said she wanted me, cried, etc. I was still very angry. I did nothing of what she suspected me of, and yet here she is posting about her ex multiple times. We went back to the hotel. I was not happy. She went through a mix of crying, apologizing, and throwing her insecurities at me, and we both argued and went to bed angry. I woke up, had a breakdown. She tried to comfort me, but I honestly wasn't sure I even wanted to stay in the room. I treat her like gold, and there she goes posting about her ex. She says she's sorry, but in my mind, there's no excuse for this, and it's a massive sign of disrespect. I've now spent hundreds of dollars for a 2-day vacation that made me miserable. I don't know what to do. This was someone I clicked so well with and thought that I saw a future with, but I can't handle being treated horribly like a suspect on a random whim on some occasions and now seeing this. I know she's not actually cheating on me, but this massively betrayed any trust I had in her. Very much contemplating leaving. Also very aware that Reddit is a horrible place to post about stuff like this, but I need to vent. Need to decide the next steps because I'm still furious about it. Imagine if the roles were reversed. She says she wants to make it up to me and is sorry and wants to do better, but I'm so at my wit's end that I'm not sure that she's worth another chance. I haven't seen her since, as I told her I need to process this. She's trying to talk with me online, and I can't help but be short with her because I'm still so angry. I don't know if this is worth forgiving. She's not over her ex, and she won't be until she gets help. That's how I see this, because I went through a similar situation. It doesn't get better, and you end up leaving, exasperated because you take on the baggage of what she is holding on to. If she's still processing this breakup, it means she was never ready to be in another relationship in the first place. I think you two would be better off going your separate ways. She isn't a horrible person, but she also needs to deal with her own mess. She can't fully be present in the way she is now. You'll be fine, and I hope she'll be fine as well. My wife cheated on me with our nanny, and now she's acting like I'm the crazy one for being upset. My wife and I have been married for 4 years now. We have a 2-year-old son who has a nanny that has overall been great, until recently obviously. My wife works from 2 to 3 days a week, and I work from home most of the time, but I go into the office on Wednesday. We have a nanny who's married to another woman. I've had what I thought was a good working relationship with her. We exchange pleasantries in the morning, and we talk every so often throughout the day. I've treated her very well, and actually, my wife has been consistently wanting to let her go to find more affordable childcare, since before they had an affair. It makes the betrayal sting a lot more, because I don't think the nanny ever realized that I was the reason she had a job, not my wife. Well, basically a few weeks ago, I noticed for the first time my wife was being really protective of her phone. We were driving somewhere and needed to update the nanny on when we'd be back. I went for my wife's phone, which usually isn't a big deal, but this time she snatched the phone out of my hands and got very defensive, telling me to use my own phone. It felt extremely odd. I decided to look at the cameras in our house that evening and noticed that the days I'm not home, but my wife is, they both leave the living room for over an hour while my son is sleeping. There's no other cameras except very obvious ones in the living room. At this point, I decided to get into my wife's MacBook, and easily enough, without any investigating, I saw the texts. They were flirting, exchanging photos, and other things, and my wife even said some things that indicate physical cheating has already happened. I confronted my wife, and she took the approach of calling me names and asking me why I hired this nanny if I'm not an ally of how she lives her life. She has taken no responsibility for damaging our relationship. Also from the texts, it's really clear that our nanny's wife doesn't know about this either, and the nanny made comments about wishing they, her and my wife, met before either of them had met their current spouses. Basically, my wife doesn't consider this cheating, and the nanny doesn't know that I know either. My wife also told me it would be petty and mean to tell our nanny's wife, which I do plan to do. I think my marriage is over. I really need advice on what to do. Is there any reason not to tell my nanny's wife? Is it really not cheating in this scenario? Am I wrong for being upset? I would support my wife if she wanted to be with a woman, but I thought that would mean having a discussion first. Your wife is saying whatever she can so she or her affair partner don't get caught. Tell the nanny's wife ASAP. Keep all of the messages as evidence and divorce her. I can't even believe she would try to use the excuse of you not being an ally. Yes, you need to tell her. It's not petty, it's the right thing to do. Keep the evidence. I'm assuming you'd be just as upset if she had cheated on you with a man. Cheating is anything outside of your established relationship, and she can't dictate to you otherwise. She's just trying to make you out to be the bad guy when she's the one that messed up bad. Keep the evidence where she can't access it. Tell the nanny's wife and look into a divorce lawyer. Get all of your ducks in a row. Sorry you had to go through this. Am I the jerk for wanting to move in my parents, but not my husband's, and suggesting putting them in a nursing home? I, 35 female, have owned our home since before marriage and we have a prenup. In day-to-day life, we refer to it as our home, but my husband, who's 37, has never paid anything towards it and has no legal rights to it. All of our parents are still alive, but my husband and I were both the youngest kids, and our parents are all much older. His mom has some dementia, and his dad has some major mobility issues. They can no longer stay in their home. Due to mother-in-law wandering the street recently, adult social services has been involved. He has 2 siblings. One is an addict and the other's in prison. The other has 4 kids and lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. Neither of his siblings can take them in, so it's us or a nursing home. Both of my parents are older and have recently retired. They live in a major city but can't afford to live there on just retirement. They need to move. My older brother is no longer with us, so it's just me that my parents can rely on. I want them to move in with us. They're both easygoing people, and my husband gets along well with both of them. They also can contribute to the household finances. They wouldn't be a burden on us at all. My husband's parents just live off Social Security and are going into debt because of their medical costs. They would be a major burden on us. We'd have to take care of them and provide for them full time. My husband works much longer hours than I do, so I'd be responsible for them. My in-laws also aren't very appreciative people, and I don't like them. I mentioned that I want to move my parents in with us, and we could use the money we'd save from their financial help to put his parents in a decent home. He was furious. He thinks we should take his parents in, and my parents can just move somewhere cheaper and manage their own retirement funds fine. I don't think this is reasonable at all. I expressed that he doesn't have time to look after his medically needy parents, nor can he afford in-home health care. He said, because I'm his wife, I should look after his parents out of love for him. I think his response is kind of BS, to be honest. I told him under no circumstances will his parents be moving in, and he's welcome to move out and care for them elsewhere. I told him if he decides to stay, I'll respect his decision of not wanting my parents to move in, and I can look into other options for them. Am I the jerk for not being willing to let my in-laws move in, but wanting my own parents to move in? Update. I spoke to my husband for an hour about it. I think he thought I would cave, but I'm not. Our marriage is done, and honestly, I'm okay with it. I bring a lot more to the table, and I'm ready to be with someone who's an equal partner. Certain aspects of his culture I admire, but the relentless idea of sacrificing everything so your parents are comfortable is something I don't agree with. They've always treated me poorly, and I'm not willing to sacrifice for them. My husband packed some clothes and is going to stay on his friend's couch for a while. I'm going to move my parents in later this month, and I'm going to change the locks and move his stuff out to a storage unit tomorrow. He can't afford a lawyer, so I'll find one to represent us both, and that'll be it. I don't know what he'll do about his parents, and I don't care. He doesn't make enough to pay for their care, so they're probably going to the only nursing home in the area that works with Medicare. It's a truly awful place, which does suck for them, but they treated me like dirt, so that's life, I guess. Second edit. A lawyer can't represent us both, apparently, and can only mediate us both. Crappy, but whatever. I'll get myself one, and if he can't come up with the money, I'll get whoever's cheapest. Not the jerk. You'll carry the burden of doing the majority of the work. By the sounds of it, your in-laws need people with proper medical training to properly take care of them. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter-in-law she isn't giving birth to Jesus, and if she doesn't clean, then she can get out of my home? My son and his girlfriend have been dating since college. They graduated last year, and they're 22 and 23. They used to have an apartment together, but soon found out that she was pregnant. I was not happy when they informed me. I knew they couldn't afford it, but they wanted to keep the baby. They're also doing a shotgun wedding soon. Soon after, they asked to move into my home. It is a large home with plenty of space. They wanted to save money for the baby. I made it clear they will need to do chores and buy their own food. They agreed, but they're messy. I've talked to them both before, and they both keep telling me that they'll do better. My son has been traveling for a job, and it became clear that she is the one making a mess. In short, she's a slob. She leaves dishes out constantly. Her stuff is all over the house. Her bathroom is gross. I've talked to her over and over again, and I've talked to my son, and he's talked to her. She's now 8 months pregnant, and her excuse is she can't clean. Well, she hasn't been cleaning since she moved in 6 months ago. I came home with groceries and I tripped over her shoes. I had enough. I told her that she isn't giving birth to Jesus, and if she doesn't clean, then she can get out of my house. She started to cry, and now my son is upset at me. I reminded him that I'm doing them a huge favor, and I doubled down on her cleaning. I'm going to reluctantly say not the jerk, because technically you're in the right, but really you should have dealt with this months ago. After she has the baby, she's not going to get a full night's sleep for months, and she sounds like she's high risk for PPD. So yeah, not sure what your living situation is, but if I were in your shoes, I'd divide the house up and put one of them or myself in an apartment, and then just start charging them rent if they're so messy it's damaging your property. Ignore the people that are going to tell you to kick them out. Don't do that to your grandson. OP. If she doesn't start cleaning now, then she will not with a baby. I cannot live with that. If she doesn't shape up, she's getting out. They had 6 months to save up money. This is literally her last chance. I don't care how close she is. My son can find the apartment for them to move into. Not the jerk. There are women out there who are ready to give birth, taking care of a house and a toddler on their own while working. I personally know a few. You're doing them a favor. It's not your job anymore to take care of them, and definitely not your job to take care of their baby. While it is nice to have a grandparent involved, that doesn't mean a grandparent is plain maid, chef, landlord, part-time parents to adults and the baby. You gave them the conditions on which you'd house them, they are no longer following them. If you want to completely cover yourself, because I don't know what kind of people your daughter-in-law and son are, start doing things in writing. They have until this date to clean up and continue to maintain their part of the house to a minimum standard, or else they can no longer live in your home. This is assuming they could actually claim a certain legal tenant rights in your location. However, if they decide to name their baby Jesus, I would have a laugh. My girlfriend of 6 years recently quit her job to travel the world. After 2 months of traveling, she's considering ending things. For reference, I'll call myself Michael and her Lisa. But for more info, we've had a truly wonderful relationship. We met 2 years before dating, and at the time I was dating someone else. Lisa was one of my flatmates at uni. I'm in the UK, and we bonded very quickly, so we were friends for a while. My girlfriend at the time broke up with me, and I had a brief fling with Lisa. We didn't hook up, but we kissed, etc. We were very close as friends, and this felt so natural. However, I moved out a week after and moved to the other side of the country. At the time, I was in a very bad place from a variety of reasons, and we slowed down talking as much. Then a year later, she randomly reached out again, and we started talking, and we just reconnected completely. I was just graduating uni, and she was just about to enter her final year after taking a gap year for work experience. She came to visit me at uni, and at this time, I fully expected it to just be a friendly visit, but it quickly became more. Soon after, she was back home, and we were chatting every day for literally up to 12 hours on FaceTime. We did this so often. I fell completely in love with her, and soon after, we became official. We lived together for the last 4 years, having moved in together about 6 months before lockdown. We had an amazing time. We adored lockdown. So much time to just develop our relationship and love each other. We have had such a wonderful relationship, always able to communicate with each other about our feelings, understand each other, and always insistent on not allowing ourselves to become too codependent. We lived our own separate lives, and we liked that. When together in our flat, we lived in our own wonderful bubble full of in-jokes and words we ascribed our own meanings to. We always likened the strength of our relationship to the fact that we were friends first. No jealousy ever, rarely ever arguments, and when there were arguments, we always managed to handle it well. We've talked extensively about our future. We've said we want to be married to each other. I have jokingly proposed to her dozens of times, always mortifying her, and have even picked out names for our future kids. We're not ready for any of that yet, as we are building our careers, but it always felt like this was it. So she's had a job for the past 4 years that she ended up hating. She quit earlier this year and has been saving up to go traveling. She did the Philippines and is now in Australia. She's been there for 2 months now. When she first went, I told her that she needs to fully embrace it and not to worry about me. The arrangement was simple, really. Our tenancy in our flat ended at the same time she planned to travel, so I've moved in with my friend and she's away for 3 months. Our goal, which we discussed a lot, was that when she returns, she'd find a new job, we'd find a new place, and resume building our life together. Slowly, we started talking less and less, and whilst at first I was happy, there were little things that were ringing alarm bells. Such little things, but when you know someone so well, and when you know your relationship so well, these small things stand out. She'd not reply for days at a time, but still post on her Instagram story. She'd post things like feeding a wallaby, but not share that with me. I love animals, and she knows how childlike I get around them, and she always said she feels sad seeing animals without me because she can't see my reactions to them. But now she's not sharing them with me. I brought this up 1 month into her traveling, firstly framed in a "I miss you" kind of way, and it landed well, and she said she'd try to talk to me a bit more, but she just withdrew even more. I brought it up again 2 weeks later, this time with a bit more of a "maybe we can try to talk a bit more." I also mentioned at this stage that I regret telling her before she traveled that I would be fine with not talking much, and that whilst I truly meant it at the time, in action, it was hurting me more than I expected. She understood and promised we'd talk more, but we talked less. A few days ago, I bring it up again, and this time it was different. Each time, she's always insisted that she is in a bubble and that she just needs to focus 100% on her traveling. I asked her if she could just give me 5 minutes every few days just to say hello, but she said she wasn't sure she could even do that. This really upset me because we are 6 years in and we have always had such a strong relationship that I was surprised at how unwilling she was. I said we needed to talk about this properly over the phone, and she suggested the following night. Her time in Oz would make it around 8 to 10 a.m. my time. I was ready at that time, but she postponed it an hour as she was going for a sunset walk and then going out for dinner with her traveling friends. Then it was postponed further, but I could no longer make the call as I had a client meeting. I told her how upset I was that she prioritized a sunset walk over our relationship and that she had already had 2 months of them and that I was only asking for 1 evening so we could talk about the future of our relationship. She agreed we needed to talk about the future of our relationship, but said she couldn't do that until she returned home in 5 weeks. I said I couldn't wait that long and quickly called her. My client was late, luckily. Essentially, she said she's so confused right now because she's in a bubble of traveling, but she's just not sure if this is what she wants anymore. She floated the idea of wanting to move out to Australia. She clearly doesn't see me in her future anymore. I'm just so blindsided because we were so close and strong and happy before, and now she's traveled, it's just totally changed everything. I asked her if she still loves me, and she wasn't sure she could answer that. She was very much down the middle about everything, clearly confused about the situation, but not wanting to cause too much of an interference to her bubble right now. My impression was that she wanted to just ignore this was happening until she came back. So where do I go now? I am so lost, so confused, so hurt. I want to be with her and spend my life with her, but she just might not want that now. I mean, you guys managed to put a wonderful gloss on how great extended solo travel was going to be for both of you, but that, I'm afraid, was never realistic. If one person feels the need to disappear for a long period after 6 years, then the relationship just wasn't that strong in her mind. I couldn't imagine leaving my significant other behind. That she could makes me think things weren't as rosy in her mind as they were in yours. High chance that she wanted some space from an intense relationship to think about if she was building the life she really wanted, and it seems like her answer is no. Unfortunately, it looks like heartbreak. Even if she comes back now, I'm not sure that her behavior is consistent with just going back to normal. OP, this is certainly a possibility. She's always been passionate about traveling and did so before we met too. She lost 2 close grandparents 2 years ago and has been extraordinarily stressed about her crappy job she had. If things weren't as rosy, I trust she will tell me when she's home and out of her bubble. Update. So it was a grueling 2 weeks, in which I took everyone's advice, as well as my own judgment, and didn't contact her at all. It was insanely difficult because I didn't really know anything about her perspective at all. I felt like I was in limbo. I didn't know where I stood and didn't know where she stood. Every day was day 1 of grieving, and the longer time went, the more difficult it became. She had acted so coldly with me with regards to talking to me about what was happening, and as I said in my original post, she had prioritized her traveling over my well-being. It was really hurting me because she knows me well, and I felt very confused and frankly traumatized that she was refusing to give me any answers. It really was driving me insane. I wasn't eating or sleeping. I wasn't working. I'm self-employed and couldn't concentrate on anything. I cried a lot. After a certain point, I decided that I couldn't continue this any longer, and although I tried to respect her need for space, I needed to respect my own need for answers, so I reached out to her again. 2 days ago, we had a long 2-hour video chat. She's currently in Vietnam. She sat in the hall of a hostel and we talked openly, warmly, honestly, and in depth about both of our feelings. There were a lot of tears. It was a very emotionally draining conversation, but it gave me a lot of answers and resolved a lot of the turbulence that I had experienced. I had written her a letter on the morning of the scheduled call, and I read it out loud to her. I explained how she had made me feel and how unempathetic I felt she was. She took this on board on a profound level, deeply apologized, and I could tell she was truly hurt with herself that she had behaved like that. She acknowledged that she had buried her head in the sand from the feelings. It was truly powerful to hear her be so candid. This was the girl I had fallen in love with. She was usually so empathetic, smart, sensitive, so her behavior these past few weeks, being so opposite of that, created such strange feelings in me. I was glad that we were talking back on the level we were usually so good at. But long story short, it's over. You see, I'm her first boyfriend. Sure, she is hooked up with her fair share of lads, but I'm her first relationship. We met when I was 22 and she was 18. I was really the only man in her life for a long time. She's now traveling and just feels a deep sense within herself that she needs to explore herself and her life without a partner. She needs to be alone to do this. I completely understand this. It's not what I wanted to hear, but it's something I obviously understand and won't at all stand in the way of. She's planning to move to Australia for a while to continue her soul search. Right now, she just doesn't see a place for me and what she needs from her life. It's heartbreaking. I'm heartbroken. I love her deeply. She still loves me, but sometimes that just isn't enough, and that's all there really is to it. A lot of you suggested that she was cheating. She wasn't. I'm sure some of you will still believe that, but it's fine. Maybe you just haven't been in a real adult relationship where there's honesty and transparency. This is not about another man. This is about her recalibrating what she wants from her future. Now I need to figure out how to recalibrate my future. We had talked extensively about marriage. I was ready to spend my life with her. We had already named our future kids. Everything about the future that we had envisioned is now gone. It's really difficult right now to imagine being with anyone else because the depth of our relationship was so strong. Every night I'm awoken by the isms of our relationship, the small quirks, the in-jokes, the made-up language we used, the tone of voice we would speak to each other in, the food we'd eat together, the things we did. I'm struggling right now. I have no idea how I'm going to make it through. If anyone can share any advice to help me, please do. I know the obvious stuff. Gym, focus on yourself, rebuild your life, but they're all intangible to me. How do I repair my soul? How do I move on from someone I'm still actively in love with? She returns to the UK at the start of July, and I'll be spending a few days with her. A goodbye, if you will. It'll be hard, and every fiber of my being wants to beg her to find a way to include me in her future, or to find ways to entertain the notion that, in the future, we could find a way to be together again. I had truly defined her as my soulmate and as my best friend, and she had done the same for me. Right now, while she's still traveling, we're not able to talk. I don't know what the future looks like now. If anyone has any advice, please let me know. OP is asking how to try and heal and move on while planning to see her and spend days with her. He should go no contact, complete cold turkey. It's hard, but he has to accept that the only way to move forward is to accept that this is the way it has to be. And as time passes, it'll get better. Giving himself grace for feeling this way and not managing to move on quickly. Sometimes you can't do anything else than give yourself time. I was rejected because I told my interview I never make mistakes. I was rejected from a role for not answering an interview question. I had all the skills they asked for, and the recruiter and hiring manager loved me. I had a final round of interviews, a peer on the hiring team, a peer from another's team that I would work closely with, the director of both teams, so it would be my grand boss, which I thought was weird, and then finally a technical test with the hiring manager I'd already spoken to. I don't know if it matters, but I'm male, and everyone I interviewed with was female. The interviews went great, except the grand boss. I asked why she was interviewing me since it was a technical position, and she was clearly some kind of middle manager. She told me she had a technical background, although she had been in management 10 years, so it's not like her experience was even relevant, but that she was interviewing for things like communication, ability to prioritize, and soft skills. I still thought it was weird to interview with my boss's boss. She asked pretty standard and boring questions, which I aced, but then she asked me to tell her about the biggest mistake I've made in my career and how I handled it. I told her I'm a professional and I don't make mistakes, and she argued with me. She said everyone makes mistakes, but what matters is how you handle them and prevent the same mistakes from happening in the future. I told her maybe she made mistakes as a developer, but since I actually went to school for it, I don't have that problem. She seemed fine with it, and we moved on with the interview. A couple of days later, the recruiter emailed me to say they had decided to go with someone else. I asked for feedback on why I wasn't chosen, and she said there were other candidates who were stronger. I wrote back and asked if the grand boss had been the reason I didn't get the job, and she just told me again that the hiring panel made the decision to hire someone else. I looked the grand boss up on LinkedIn after the rejection, and she was a developer at 2 industry leaders and then an executive at a third. She was also connected to a number of well-known C-level people in our city and industry. I'm thinking of mailing her on LinkedIn to explain why her question was wrong and asking if she'll consider me for future positions at her company, but my wife says it's a bad idea. What do you think about me mailing her to try to explain? Update. I read some of the comments, but I don't think people really understand my point of view. I'm very methodical and analytic, which is why I said I don't make mistakes. It's just not normal to me for people to think that making mistakes is okay. I did follow your advice to not mail the grand boss on LinkedIn until I discovered she seems to have gotten me banned in our field. Despite numerous resume submissions and excellent phone screens, I've been unable to secure employment. I know my resume and cover letter are great. I followed your advice, and during the phone screens, the interviewers always really like me, so it's obvious she's told all her friends about me and I'm being blackmailed. I did email her on LinkedIn after I realized what she had done, and while she was polite in her response, she refused to admit she told everyone my name. She suggested that it's just a tough job market, and there are a lot of really qualified developers looking for a job. She mentioned layoffs at places like Twitter and Facebook, but it just seems too much of a coincidence that as soon as she refused to hire me, no one else wanted to hire me either. I also messaged the hiring manager on LinkedIn to ask her to tell her boss to stop talking about me, but I didn't receive a response. I'm considering mailing some of her connections on LinkedIn to find out what she's saying about me, but I don't know if it would do any good. I'm very frustrated by this whole thing. I understand that she didn't like me, but I don't think it's fair to get me banned everywhere. I've been talking to my wife about going back to school for my master's instead of working, but she's worried it will be a waste of money and won't make me any more employable. I've explained that having a master's is desirable in technology and will make me a more attractive candidate, but she's not convinced. If you have any advice on how to explain to her why it's a good idea, I would be grateful. Well, at least now he has an answer for the next time someone asks him about his biggest mistake. Any manager with an ounce of common sense would avoid OP like the plague. Never make any mistakes? Yeah, right. More like a hyperinflated ego that is an HR time bomb. And OP didn't learn a single thing. The grand boss knew exactly what he was about and made a very good decision. Exactly. The worrying people are those who don't learn from their mistakes. And he can't even admit he likely made a mistake. That's a huge red flag. I wouldn't employ him. My wife will not let me take a nap. She always wakes me up or does her best to prevent me from falling asleep. I work for an agricultural company where my weekly hours fluctuate between 60 and 120, while also working on getting a degree. My amazing bride is a homemaker by choice. All of this is okay. My issue comes from an occasion I'm exhausted and will start to fall asleep or will purposely try to take a nap. Our entire marriage, 11 years, she has woke me up or flat out refused to let me fall asleep. I've tried talking to her numerous times and she's unable to articulate what the issue is. Today I got off early after 10 straight 16-hour days. Took her on a lunch date, then came home and decided to take a quick nap before working on school. Within minutes of laying down, she's come into the room and has begun shaking me, turning the lights on, and other obnoxious behavior. How can I articulate to her my need for an occasional nap? And how can I get her to articulate what her apparent unmet needs are so that I don't go insane? Because it's at a point where I'm feeling disrespected and unappreciated. Edit. It's clear that there is more at play here, and I'll be working with my therapist to develop two plans. One, much to many's dismay, to try and work with my bride one last time to address and fix the underlying issue, and two, a way out for if plan 1 fails. Thank you for all the kind words and the truthful words. Sleep deprivation is horrible. Quite frankly, I'm amazed that you haven't snapped and said something very cutting. I turn into a grumpy bear when I don't get enough sleep, and she's acting like a toddler. Tell her to flat out leave you alone to nap when you need it, or you're thinking of separation as a way of solving her problem of not letting you sleep. It's been 11 years, so this is not something innocent. She's doing it on purpose. It's disrespectful and very annoying. You've put up with it for 11 years. What's your next move? Am I the jerk for telling my fiance's mom she's clueless and needs to mind her own business? I'm 27, male, engaged to Sienna, who's 26, and we're having some trouble with her mom, May. I get along fine with Sienna's family for the most part, even May typically, but she has always been a little intrusive into my family life and wanting to know details that are really none of her business. I don't have a close family, or a family at all really. My mom was a train wreck of a person who destroyed her life when she was previously married by cheating and getting involved with some shady guys, which ended her marriage and caused tension with her 2 kids from her ex-husband. She ended up pregnant with me, and there were 3 guys who could have been the father, and none were happy with the situation she made. When my father was confirmed, she chose another guy instead, and my father left the picture. My mom ended up losing custody of me when I was 3. Her other kid's father was given sole custody of them, and he was asked by a social worker to take me in. He initially said no. Then someone, and I don't know who, told him that his kids would hate him forever if he left me to the system. So he took me in and let me live with them until I turned 18. But his kids didn't want me, and he sure as heck didn't want me either. So while I had a family, in the sense I grew up with other people in the same house, nobody actually wanted me there, and it was made very clear to me by my mother's other kids that I wasn't their sibling, and they didn't hate their dad for not taking me because they didn't want me. Their father wasn't hostile to me exactly, but he was cold, and he made it very clear I was not his kid. By the time I turned 17, I was on my own because he realized his kids had never loved me, and I was dropped with the knowledge that nobody would come for him for leaving me at 17 when I was already working. I have nothing to do with them now, or my mother, or my father, or extended family. Sienna is from a very complicated blended family. May appears to have a very defensive view of blended families, and being aware somewhat of my past, she has pressured me to reach out and invite my family to my wedding, and to her, my family means the man who raised me and his kids. Sienna has told her that that won't be happening, and we stopped seeing her for a period of time because of her insistence on bringing it up. May finally decided to tell me that I owe her the whole story, and she'll be able to help me make amends with my family, because that's what's best for everyone. I told her she was so clueless if she thought things worked that way, and I told her that she needs to mind her own business because I don't owe her my whole background. Sienna kicked May out, but not before May told me I had spoken to her harshly when all she was doing was helping. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I can't stand people who have this weird savior complex when it comes to family. It's annoying and disrespectful to think that the world is a puzzle where everything fits neatly into place. It doesn't. Your family are terrible people, and you have absolutely nothing to make amends for. I would consider going low contact or no contact with your fiance's mom for a while. Am I the jerk for telling my husband I don't want his brat daughter going on vacation with us? My husband has a 16-year-old daughter, Amy, with his ex. She's a huge Disney kid, which I get because I was too. We have 2 kids together, Ryan and Ella, who are 9 and 2. Amy goes to Disney usually 5 times a year, twice with her mom, twice with my husband, and her maternal grandparents take her every Christmas break. The younger kids and I have never gone with my husband and Amy as it's a tradition they've had since she was a baby. Well, my husband, me, and our 2 kids have a trip planned for early August to go to a different theme park for a few days. It was agreed that this would be a just the 4 of us trip, as it will be our kids' first theme park trip. Initially, my husband said he wasn't inviting Amy, as she will have just gotten back from Disney with her mom a few days before. My husband takes her every year over Thanksgiving and spring break. Whenever we've included Amy in any of our trips, she complains nonstop. It's boring, stupid, useless. She hates it. Disney is better. It's a waste of time, and she has a really bad mood for the whole trip. I'm not looking forward to that. I think the 2 younger kids deserve a fun time without Amy basically throwing a tantrum. Last time we went to a water park, Amy got upset because she wanted to go to Disney again, so she turned off her phone and ran off. We all spent the next several hours looking for her, and by the time we found her, it was time to go and nobody was able to enjoy the day. I told my husband I do not want her to go with us and my reasons why. He says I'm being unfair and Amy is still one of the kids, and if we're taking out 2, then it's only fair to include Amy. I told him if he insists on Amy going, I'll make other accommodations for myself, Ryan, and Ella. He told me I'm being a jerk and try to see how that would make Amy feel. Am I the jerk? Edit. Amy has said she does not care at all about our trip. We're going to Legoland, not Disney. My husband wants Amy to go with us since he's worried she'll end up regretting it later if she skips. Not the jerk. At 16, she can be held to appropriate behavior. I understand having her special time with each of her parents, but this seems excessive. Why doesn't their father take Amy on one trip and do older kid things, and then take the younger ones on another trip and do your younger kid things? Aren't 4 yearly trips to Disney sufficient? Why is it okay to regularly exclude 2 kids but not the other? My husband is in Dubai and his side piece showed up at my door with their baby. My husband and I, 40 female and 41 male, have been together for 10 years, and I consider our years to be very loving and happy, but apparently not for him since he had a side piece, obviously. I make furniture and make around 1 million euros a year. My husband is a teacher. It goes without saying that I provide for us. I don't ask what he does with his salary. We live way below our means, however, because we're both minimalists, but we do have a big house, nice cars, and lots of art. Everything is mine, however. Apparently, he met his side piece, female 25, under false pretenses and told her that we were legally married, so he owned half my company and everything else I own. When she got pregnant, he started spending his salary on her. I wasn't alarmed because I didn't know what he did with his money. Now he's in Dubai on vacation, and her lease on her apartment expired, so she just showed up at my door with her baby. She told me she was his girlfriend and that he was getting a divorce, so she might as well live in his house and I could live in a hotel because I could afford it. She didn't have any money or a home. She literally refused to step out, so I called the police and locked myself in the greenhouse. When the police got here, she was literally unpacking in the living area. They escorted her out. I was very shaken. Later, I found out all the details I included above. My husband's mother thought I was a jerk for kicking out a little baby onto the street. That was her only grandson. I used my money and power to control everything around me. But honestly, teachers make $60K a year, so if he gave her his salary, I can't understand why she would be so homeless and destitute. She had big designer bags, designer stroller, and all kinds of jewelry when she showed up to my house. But now I'm the jerk? If your mother-in-law is so concerned about the baby, she can take them in. OP. She said she couldn't because she lives in a studio apartment. How long has your partner been in Dubai? Depending on the length of his stay, he may not even legally have residency in your home anymore. If legal, I'd change the locks now. OP. He's there for 10 days. 1 week left. It was the end of school kind of thing. I'm going to gather all his things and send him to his mother. I gotta ask, how do you make 1 million a year making furniture? Also, not the jerk. Kick out the hubby too. OP. Long story short, I started off as an interior decorator and designer, and I started designing what the market lacked in my opinion. Now it's gotten bigger. Update 1 week later. I will never see him again. It's over. He's back from his trip. Probably he wasn't expecting to start his summer vacation this way. My lawyer has already contacted him about what he's owed. It will be transported to his mother's apartment. Whatever more he thinks he is owed, he can sue me, and I'll be ready. And I hope he can afford my lawyers when he loses whatever lawsuit he plans to file. Apparently, the apartment that his girlfriend lost was his. He was sending her money for the rent, but she spent it on Prada instead. He swears that the baby isn't his and that he is going to demand a paternity test, like it would make any difference. Maybe for the baby, yeah. I hope to God that kid isn't his, so that maybe there's a small chance for that baby to have a better future and more loving parents. I'm moving in with my parents. Right now I'm in a hotel, but I have no desire to be in that house again with all the memories. I'm selling it, and while I find a new home and sell this one, I'll just live with my family. The girlfriend has contacted me a few times via social media because she needs to talk. She wants proof that we aren't married because he told her that we are. I don't do delusion, so I just blocked her. She's tried to contact me through my friends, so now everyone knows the truth without me needing to make an announcement. One last thing. I might have used the wrong terms because I'm not a native English speaker, but we are common law marriage. Our relationship is long-term and we live together, but we have separate finances. We have no rights to each other's property or estate. Am I the jerk for cutting off my cousin and her mom after they accused me indirectly of stealing at her wedding? I'm in a tough spot and I could really use some outside perspective on this situation. So my cousin Emma and I have never been particularly close, but we've always been civil. When she got engaged in December of 2022, I sent her a thoughtful present, which she thanked me for repeatedly. Fast forward to February, and Emma invited me to her wedding in April of 2024. Living abroad and starting a new job, I made it clear that I needed advance notice to attend, and thankfully, I managed to make it. Emma asked me to be part of her wedding entry, and despite our not being very close, I agreed, hoping it would help us build a better relationship. However, just a week before the wedding, I found out she'd been talking negatively about me and my career as a project manager. It stung, but I didn't want to cause drama before her big day, so I just kept quiet about it. During the wedding weekend, I helped Emma get dressed in her Hindu ceremony, and her mom told me to leave the jewelry as she would handle it later. So I only packed away the bangles. The entry went smoothly, and I attended the reception without any complaints. However, after the wedding, I chose not to leave a gift, intending to address the hurtful comments privately after the festivities. Days later, Emma asked me about the missing jewelry, and I told her I hadn't touched it beyond what her mom instructed. Later that day, I saw Emma posting on Facebook about missing jewelry and implying that someone in the family might have taken it. I felt uneasy, especially since her mom and I were the only family members helping her get dressed. Then things escalated when her sister made comments on the post saying, "We didn't like her anyway." Her mom reached out to me asking about the bangles, which made me feel like they were singling me out. Even my grandmother called, further cementing that they may have discussed me as a suspect. Finally, another cousin messaged me saying the jewelry was found boxed up in a car, but Emma refuses to retract her accusations online because she's embarrassed. Feeling betrayed, I chose to cut Emma and her mom out of my life. I deleted them from my socials and blocked their numbers. Now my grandma is upset, saying I was unfair for not explaining myself. So Reddit, am I the jerk for cutting them off without explanation? Should I have handled the situation differently? Not the jerk. This was probably a setup. If she doesn't like you and y'all aren't that close, then why ask you, along with her mother, to help her get ready? Why not her sister? That last-minute invite, it was either a happy coincidence to be able to accuse you, or she set you up, but someone else discovered and found the jewelry where they weren't supposed to be looking. A box in a car that you would think would have already been taken out by now. OP. I didn't think about it this way. Her sister was popping in and out of the changing room. I did not think anything of it at the time. It's sick if they truly wanted to use that against me and not speak up. Even if they post a retraction, I want nothing to do with them. Accusing me and finding it just recently in your car is unacceptable. Update. Last night, I called Grandma and Emma on three-way, asking about the jewelry that was conveniently found in a car. Emma said that wasn't for me to find out, as she only told her mother and Grandma. Obviously a lie, because Jessica heard and passed it on to me. She also lives abroad and isn't close to Emma. Grandma then said,
"Well, it's material and it's found. We don't have a long time here. Let's all get along."
I responded, "No thank you. I needed a public apology because I blindly believed Emma and I had a good relationship. I even heard she made comments about my job, which I wanted to address after her wedding." Emma confirmed the comments talking crap about me, but is sticking to her guns about the jewelry. I mentioned to her that I was posting on Facebook about the jewelry and will attach screenshots to it, and that I wanted nothing further to do with Emma since she was not remorseful and is proud of disliking me for whatever reason. So sorry that many people in your family are horrible, OP. You deserve better. I could see how much you cared by being willing to travel for a cousin you weren't even close with, you hoped to get closer to, and how you reacted to their bullying. You're better off without them. Do make sure to get your side of the story to others in the extended family, because you can bet that everyone involved, possibly with your grandmother seeing and not actively shutting down, will be telling a story to them where you are the bad guy. OP, that's what really hurt. I was hoping she was sincere about inviting me and asking me to participate. When she got engaged, I even sent her a present incorporating her interests, and she was so appreciative, or so she seemed. It sucks knowing I meant basically nothing to her. I was hurt that they never really liked me anyway and made fun of my job as a project manager at an engineering firm. I've never done anything to them to warrant this. It's just confusing and hurtful. However, the band-aid is off and life will continue without them. Update. After consulting with an attorney friend and compiling all relevant evidence, including screenshots and messages, we took the step of sending a legal letter to my cousin. Additionally, I made a post on Facebook tagging family members, family friends who attended the event, the priest who officiated, and even her neighbors. Yep, I went the extra mile to bring awareness to the situation. Important announcement regarding Emma's wedding. Hello everyone in the Brown family. I hope this message finds you well. I feel compelled to address a matter that has been weighing on my mind since Emma's wedding last April. Firstly, I want to express my gratitude to Emma for inviting me to be a part of it. It was an honor to participate, and I was genuinely touched by this opportunity. However, recent events have left me deeply disheartened. It's come to my attention that there have been discussions, both prior to and following the wedding, where unkind remarks were made about me and my profession. While this was hurtful, I chose to handle the situation delicately and intended to discuss it with Emma after the wedding to gain clarity. Despite the hurtful comments, I remained committed to supporting Emma on her wedding day. I assisted her with changing outfits and I took care of her belongings as requested. Regrettably, shortly after the wedding, I was unfairly implicated in the disappearance of some jewelry. Subsequent discussions with Emma revealed that there were private conversations insinuating my involvement, which left me feeling unfairly targeted. It was only through the disclosure from a third party that the truth about the jewelry's whereabouts emerged. I confronted Emma about these revelations, hoping for resolution and understanding. However, her response was dismissive and she refused to acknowledge the hurtful nature of her actions. Instead, she chose to maintain hurtful social media posts, causing further distress. In light of these events, I've made the decision to distance myself from Emma and her immediate family. My conscience is clear, and I refuse to tolerate such unfair treatment. Furthermore, I want to assure you all that I am taking the necessary steps to clear my name. I'm in contact with legal counsel to draft a letter and seek exoneration from these false accusations. I share this message not out of spite or animosity, but to set the record straight and reclaim my integrity. P.S. The missing jewelry was found by her mother in the car. For those interested in the details, I've compiled all relevant screenshots and supporting information in a Google Drive. Feel free to click the link to access it. Final update. As of this morning, Emma has pulled her Facebook posts. Grandma is saying that I was unfair to go public and she is disappointed in me. I explained to Grandma that after our three-way conversation, it was clear I was being accused. It was not fair to be unjustly accused and not notify the public that the jewelry was found because Emma wanted to save face. Emma's mom and sister have tried to reach out to me via friend requests. I want nothing to do with them until Emma issues an earnest apology and private apology. Since my last update regarding the Facebook post, multiple family members and family friends have reached out to me about what a crappy person Emma is. Some expressed disappointment in her actions to protect her facade and her treatment of me when I've been supportive and sincere to her on her big day. I thought that was rather amusing. And since someone assumed I'm putting up with my grandma's crap, she was cut off after that conversation. Am I the jerk for dropping off my employer's kids at her important meeting? I was an au pair before, and now I provide nanny services and annual babysitting services. A new contract is signed every year. There are no run-on contracts. I have 3 others working for me and the occasional teen looking to make some extra cash. One of my employees was done with a minor celebrity family abroad. The celebrity had recommended her to one of their other celebrity friends. I had a few families that weren't vetted on a list, but because she said she already knew the social circle, she wanted to start immediately due to cash flow and was willing to start before the formalities and paperwork was sorted out. The contract with base rate, extras, and holidays and all were signed and agreed upon before she started. Apart from some minor disagreements, her former celebrity employer was overall a good client, so I allowed her to start thinking her friend wouldn't be a hassle without vetting them first. The first week went okay, and I got good feedback from her when I touched base with her. The second week, there were some minor disagreements. The third week, they didn't serve her meals because they felt she was getting paid enough to get her own food. I contacted them and gave them a warning that they couldn't breach the contract and to reimburse her for the cost of food. They agreed to it, but the day after, my employee contacted me and said they gave her what they thought she should use for food instead of her actual costs, and she wanted to quit. I contacted them again and told them that there would be legal action if they didn't. They did, begrudgingly, but left a voicemail wondering why she felt the need to eat papayas and pineapples, even though this is part of their kids' diet, and as per the contract, she would get the same food. And other fancy stuff when she couldn't afford it. They also said people like her should stick to what is within their means of their budget. So I moved her out of this placement and came to an agreement that I would take over her duties until I found them a different one. This is in line with the contract. It's my responsibility if a nanny is sick or otherwise not able to do the job, not the parents. The kids were not the best behaved, but due to their ages, I let it slide. Things got bad for me during the 4th week as it was my weekend off. When I woke up, she had written me a note taped to my bedroom door that she was gone for the weekend and that I should help her out this once, as I had given her a faulty nanny to begin with. This was in line with her character from what I had observed, but I was still shocked that she would pull this after me explaining the contract before taking over. I let it slide. When she returned, she came back with her husband. I set them both down and told them that during my days off, which they would be informed about minimum 14 days prior, as per contract, they had to arrange their own childcare. In addition, I reminded them that as they had now been given 2 warnings, the third would avoid the contract, which was in the contract. They tried to raise objections, but I reminded them that I was an employee, not a slave. 6 weeks from then, which was yesterday, I was supposed to have the weekend off. When I woke up in the morning, the house was empty apart from the kids, the bearded dragon, the duck, and the other animals. Even the chef wasn't there. The note she had left stated that she was out entertaining her friends and coworkers at the beach and that she would be back by 2. She said she would really appreciate it if I could do it just once more, as it was an important get-together. The kids were more or less old enough to take care of themselves, so it wasn't a hard job. 2 came and went, and no sign of either one of them. By 4, I had left several messages. By 5, their other celebrity friend came by to pick up some of his stuff that he had left behind a few days earlier. He mentioned a restaurant and handed me a 20, telling me to hang on as it was an important appointment. She was trying to get back into being an actress and she needed this. No sooner had he left did I pack up the kids and made my way there. I asked the waitress to guide me to the table as we were doing a surprise and that the kids had looked forward to this all week. That was a lie, but I needed to get to her before the waitstaff stopped me. Her kids are known in the area, so I'm glad that they let me through. Then I crashed her important meeting with a surprise and telling her the contract was voided and to expect a solicitor to contact them. Since last evening, both her and her husband have left unsavory messages on my phone. So, was I the jerk? Update. My solicitor contacted them regarding the pay, involuntary overtime, and a deadline to pay me in full or there would be fines for missed deadline of payment. They tried to stall and wanted me to delete the voicemails, texts, and emails before paying, thinking that they had the upper hand. My solicitor said they couldn't force me to delete or keep anything I had received. I sent them a clip of one of the messages that leaves no room for speculation that it might be someone else. In reply, they offered to pay more by not releasing this stuff publicly, as she said it would damage her and especially his reputation. We came to an agreement that in addition to writing an apology letter to my nanny that had to leave, and compensating her for the distress they put her through, and compensating me financially, I wouldn't release the material publicly. It's the best way to put this mess behind us. I will also vet all my clients in the future, despite where their referral comes from, to avoid a repeat of this. I may have spread it around that this family may be a little difficult to work for, so they are going to have to pay more than what the industry standard is in the future. Karen demands I hire a nanny to watch her baby so she can go party. My daughter, 17 female, has a 1-year-old daughter. The father is not around. We sued for child support and won, but he has never paid a dime. It was very important to not only my daughter, but myself and her mother that she finish high school, then go to college. Therefore, we made a deal. We will cover childcare expenses and everything related to the child, diapers, clothes, insurance, etc., until she graduates from college. In exchange, our daughter will focus on school and care for her daughter when she is home. Due to lockdown concerns, my wife and I have decided that a nanny would be better versus putting her in daycare exposed to the other kids. The nanny is a very sweet woman who in the past has offered to watch our granddaughter extra hours. We always tell her that won't be necessary. My daughter usually leaves for school right before the nanny arrives, so I stay with my granddaughter for 10 minutes. Today, when the nanny came, we were talking about potential bad weather that might close the roads for tomorrow. As she doesn't work Fridays, my wife is home and watches the baby. I said I'd pay her for the week now, including a full day for Thursday. She said we could just pay her on Saturday. I was confused, and she said my daughter had asked her to work. I told her, 1, my daughter did not hire her. She doesn't choose the hours, we do. 2, unless our daughter needs to study or something, we won't be needing her. I waited until my daughter came home to talk to her about it. She said that her friends were going to a party. She feels overwhelmed from school and caring for a baby. I told her I understood, but this was our deal. She started to cry and said that all her life is school and baby. I hugged her, told her that this was the bed she made and she was lucky to have the arrangement she does. If she wants to earn her own money, she can get a part-time job and pay for childcare in her free time. That just made her more upset. My wife agrees with me, but our daughter is very upset and thinks we should just cave just this once. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. This may be unpopular, but I agree with you and your wife. What clinched this was that she went behind your back on this. She might have asked you about having a night off to have fun. That's a reasonable request, but she didn't. She tried to sneak one by you. 17 and the mother of a 1-year-old, she still has a lot of growing up to do. Adults talk and tell each other what's going on. She's a child raising a child. Talk to her, work out something so she gets to be a teenager at least once or twice a month. These are not easy times we're in. Karen gets busted for plagiarizing a piece of artwork in class. I've been doing art in multiple forms since I was really young. I've never been interested in art as a career or a job. It's something I started doing to express myself and to help my anxiety. I've been posting my drawings on Instagram just for fun, and through this, I became friends with a somewhat popular artist. We will call her Dana. By popular, I don't mean millions of followers. I mean she has a little over 25,000 followers. Not an extreme amount, but still a good following. We became rather close through Instagram. Now, Dana is an amazing artist. This girl can make a drawing look like a photo. Now back to the main point. It all happened in art class. We previously had an assignment to do an art piece that shows how the world has changed due to what's going on. When first given the assignment, our art teacher, we will call her Mrs. G, told us that she would pick 5 pieces of work to enter into an art contest being held by the local art center. Anyone interested in being picked should tell her after class. The prize was a $100 gift card to the local Michael's store, which is the best art store around here. Now, I'm perfectly content with my cheap dollar store art supplies. As I said, I don't take my art too seriously, it's just for fun, so I didn't enter. Now comes Wednesday. Mr. G had picked the drawings and they were posted outside of the art room. Now when I looked at one of the winner's drawings, it completely stuck out to me. It was an art piece submitted by a girl who we will call Candy. I knew I had seen that exact piece before. On Dana's page. She had done it about a month back. I even pulled up the post on Dana's page and held them side by side, completely copied. Now here's where I might be the jerk. I ratted her out to Mrs. G, going as far as showing her Dana's Instagram page, namely the piece Candy copied. Now Mrs. G has a rule, no tracing and or copying art. Original pieces only unless the assignment mentioned otherwise. So Mrs. G was not happy. She confronted Candy, who tried denying it at first, but admits she copied it once presented with proof. She also went back and looked at Candy's previous works and saw that she copied most of those as well. Candy was sent to the office and didn't come back for the rest of the day. From what I heard, her punishment was having her piece taken down and being disqualified from the competition, obviously. She was given a failing grade on the assignment, and she was given 3 days out of school suspension. Now, her and her friend are harassing me for turning her in, calling me a rat, saying I shouldn't have butted my nose where it doesn't belong, saying it's not my business. But isn't it my business? Dana is my friend, and Candy was going to enter Dana's hard work into a competition claiming it was hers. If she had won, the piece would hang in the art center with her name on it. That just doesn't sit well with me. Am I the jerk for ratting on a girl for plagiarizing a piece of artwork in class? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Candy? Please let us know.
Now that's what I call sour candy.
Yes. Entitled Mom wants her kid to be Artist of the Month every month. I work in a small art studio and we run art clubs for kids, usually around an hour at a time, where I am the assistant art teacher. The age range is quite large, though we do have classes for younger kids and older ones separately. In one of the younger classes, there's a girl, probably around 7 or 8, and not to be harsh, but she is one of the brattiest kids I've ever met. She always throws massive tantrums whenever she has to share paint with the other kids, which is necessary because resources are expensive. And she always says she hates her pictures to get attention and throws an even bigger tantrum, crying and shouting the entire lesson. We know she does this for attention because she's a completely different kid around her mother. As soon as the art class is over, she runs out all happy and says, "Look at my beautiful picture, Mummy," or something along those lines. So for context, we have this thing in our classes where each month we pick one kid from one of the groups and ask them to bring in some of their previous artwork so that we can hang them up on our Artist of the Month wall. We give them back when the month is over. One day, after a long lesson of entitled kid throwing tantrums and crying as she always does, her mother picks her up, but this time she actually comes into the studio for a moment. Entitled Mom notices the Artist of the Month wall and upon closer inspection realizes that the artwork on the wall doesn't belong to Entitled Kid. She then turns to Entitled Kid and goes, "Look, darling, have you been the Artist of the Month yet?" Entitled Kid, "No, some of the other kids in the class have though." Entitled Mom turns to me and asks why her daughter hasn't had her work up yet. I explain that every single kid will get a chance and that we try to alternate between the classes to make it fair. With a slightly annoyed tone, she says, "Well, I sure hope Entitled Kids will be on the wall next month." I explain again that we've already picked the Artist of the Month for next month, because we try to alternate between the classes.
But these other kids' artworks aren't even good. My daughter is the only one with real talent here. She should be the artist of the month every month.
Me. Well, that just isn't how we do things around here. There are plenty of other kids in the class whose artwork is all unique and who all deserve a chance to be artist of the month. Me. Either your daughter can wait for her turn, or I don't know how else to help you. At this point, Entitled Mom looked very annoyed.
Ugh, doesn't matter. Her artwork is still a lot better than all those other kids.
Me. I'm sure that to you, as a parent, it is. At this point, Entitled Mom just huffed and left with her daughter. Needless to say, they still came back to the next class and didn't say anything else since. Entitled Kid still occasionally throws tantrums, and it's not as bad nowadays. Boss told me to choose between the military or my job, so I quit. I was active duty in the Army for 3 years, and following that, shifted into the reserves for another 3 years. I was moving from one state back to my home state during the transition from active duty and needed a truck scale to weigh the moving truck before returning it, so I could be reimbursed for the move. The Army pays you to move between duty stations and when you ETS from active duty. While looking for a truck scale, I found a place that I thought would have one, but it turned out to be a company that installed and certified scales. The branch manager and I hit it off as I was explaining what I was there for, and he said he would like to interview me for a job. Sweet. I needed something anyway to support my family, and the job sounded pretty exciting. Within a couple of weeks, they had hired me, and I got started learning the ropes and getting the necessary certifications. Things went well, and I became one of the go-to guys when they needed some of the more intricate work done. I had several job sites I would go to on a regular basis where the customers loved me. You might be surprised at all the places where scales are used to measure products and sell things, from labs with tiny scales weighing to the hundredths of a gram to big truck scales installed at job sites to weigh debris from various construction projects. The job was tough physically at times, but I actually really enjoyed traveling all over the state and getting to meet some really awesome people. Fast forward a little over a year after I started at the company. Things had been going really good, and I was going to school in the evenings to get some education and further my career. Now, sometimes the job required all hands on deck on the weekends for some of the bigger jobs, like truck scale installs at customer sites for one reason or another. Normally, this was fine, and there had never been any issue for me working the weekend, unless I had drill with my reserve unit. But the company was fine with that as long as I got the needed paperwork from my unit listing the dates I would be drilling. This all changed at the end of May, after I had been at the company for over a year. I had requested time off over the Memorial Day holiday weekend to take my wife to Myrtle Beach as a late honeymoon. The weekend before that I had drill, and so was also unavailable for work. The Thursday before those back-to-back weekends, which had been understood to be my weekends I would not be available, my boss called me after I had left the shop for my jobs for the day. Boss: "Hey, I need you to tell me which of the next 2 weekends you will be able to work. We have 2 big jobs, and we need everyone available." Me: You know I have drill this weekend, and you already approved me being off next weekend to go out of town." Boss: "Well, I need you at least one of these jobs. So which will you be in for?" Me: "I can't this weekend because drill is mandatory, and if I cancel the hotel that I have booked next weekend, it's going to cost me money in cancellation fees." Boss: "Look, we work in customer service. If you can't be available to work, then maybe you should look for a job not in customer service. Call me back or let me know when you get back to the office which weekend you will be working." This call was at like 8:30 in the morning, and I still had several jobs to do for the day. I called my wife and told her what happened and that I might just quit. She said I should do what I thought was best, and maybe it would be good to be able to focus on school more and try to find something where they were not going to treat me like that. I spent the rest of the day contemplating what to do, and by the time I got back to the office that afternoon, I had made up my mind. I walked into the boss's office. Me: "I thought about what you said this morning, and you were absolutely right. I quit." Boss: "Whoa, don't be hasty. I can work it out so you're good the next couple of weekends and don't have to worry about the jobs." Me: "I already made up my mind. You tried to hold the fact that I have drill over my head and make me work the weekend you knew I was taking my wife out of town." Boss: "Well, go home tonight and think about it, and let me know in the morning after you've had some time to think." I went home and gathered all my uniforms up, washed them, and removed my name tags. I think he thought I was going to come back the next day and change my mind, because he had me scheduled for several jobs solo that day when I arrived at the office. He was sorely mistaken. I turned in my uniforms, collected my tools, and left after he and the branch manager both begged me to stay, saying that they didn't have anyone to take my jobs and I would be hurting the company if I didn't stay. I focused on school the next few months and wound up getting a job in IT where I was making a lot more money with a lot less stress on my mind and body. Edit. Thank you for all the kind words and awards. I wanted to clarify that this has been a few years ago and was not informed at the time about how the laws worked in regards to employers and military service, so I didn't know just how bad the way they were acting was. Since then, I've learned a lot and would probably have handled things much differently if I knew what I know now. It's all worked out in the end, and I know of at least one customer that stopped suing them after I left because the guy they had coming out to the site to replace me was not up to the standard they expected when I was out there. Have you ever had trouble getting time off from work that you needed? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
I need a break from listening to you read all day. We've done this every single day for the past 2 years straight.
Would I be the jerk if I took my former landlord to small claims court, knowing she doesn't have the money and has a kid? To preface, I'm 22, finishing my bachelor's, about to start my master's program in the fall. Despite working nearly full-time, I don't have much money. So in August, I found myself in a situation where I had to move out of my house immediately and found a room being rented out on Craigslist for $800 a month. It was in a house with a mom and her 6-year-old daughter and another college student who was barely ever there. I paid a $500 deposit. I quickly found out that this lady was a bit wacky. She was in the midst of divorce and had some weird ideas about money. She told me many times that she hated working and wanted to get as much child support as she could, even if that meant her ex would never see the kid. He was a good dad and very involved. She didn't have a degree or much work experience besides the occasional part-time thing. She's 40. I ended up being able to stay with other family for free, so I gave her my 30-day notice and moved out at the beginning of January. She said she was going to deduct a $50 cleaning fee, but the rest of my deposit was good. When I was packing though, I heard her talking to a friend in the other room saying I was gullible and she was thinking about not returning it. I texted her in February, a month after I moved out, and she said she didn't have it, but she would get it to me ASAP. I texted again 2 days ago, and she didn't even reply. I know she doesn't have it, but I have things that I need that money for. Plus, I left the place spotless. I'm seriously thinking about small claims court, but I feel bad because I know she has a kid, and her kid is awesome, so I wouldn't want it to affect them. In California, if the deposit was retained, in bad faith, I'm entitled to up to 3 times the value of the deposit, so I'm thinking of threatening that. I don't like being put in this position at all. Update. Thank you guys. I don't know why I have so much guilt about this. I texted her saying that while I sympathize, legally she is not fulfilling her obligation to return my deposit within 3 weeks. I told her it's been 3 months and that she has 1 week to return the deposit in full, or I would pursue legal action and go for 3 times the amount of the deposit. I reiterated that I don't want to do that, I just want my deposit back. No reply yet, but we will see. Update 2. She said she didn't have it and said she would get it to me as soon as she could. And that was our agreement, not the 21 days thing. She also said, "You're acting really stupid right now, and if you do this, you of all people know it's going to come back to you. Someone will eventually threaten legal action upon you, and if you file, you will be filed against by someone, but on a much worse terms, if you sue me." I was just gonna let it go and settle for the minimum, but now I want to go for the max amount. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you sue the landlady or not? Please let us know.
I'd sue her for everything. Then again, I just love suing people.
Double booked seats with an entitled couple on a 12-hour flight. This happened back when I was a kid, but there are other stories here that reminded me of this. Cast of characters. We've got me. We've got brother and sister. We've got parents. We've got flight attendant. We've got entitled wife and entitled husband. The situation. We were on a flight from Miami to Bolivia as a family of 5 with 3 kids under 12. We're getting on the flight, sat down, when entitled wife and entitled husband come up to my row. I'm sitting in the same row with brother and sister. Entitled wife. "Excuse me, you're in our seats." Me, brother, and sister have all been well-versed in kid travel by this time, so we pull out our individual boarding passes and show her. We're also assigned these seats. Entitled husband. "No, you're wrong. Let me see those." We don't give them over. My dad comes over to see why strangers are talking to us. "Excuse me, why are you talking to my kids?" Entitled husband. "They're in our seats. Look." Dad. That's their assigned seat. They know how to read a boarding pass. By this time, we have attracted the attention of the flight attendant, who confirms that indeed, these seats have been double booked. Entitled wife and entitled husband are irate, demanding their assigned seats. Flight attendant leaves to go see what she can do for us. This whole time, entitled wife is making a big show of trying to store her bag in front of ours in the overhead bins and complaining loudly. Flight attendant returns and says, "Thank you so much for your patience. It was double booked, but it looks like we have enough seats in first class available for your party. If you could please follow me." Entitled wife and entitled husband sigh, relieved that finally someone will see reason. Entitled wife gathers her bag, and as entitled husband steps forward, flight attendant holds up her hand. "No, sir, not you. If you three," looking at me, brother and sister, "will please join us up in first class, we'll make sure you're taken care of." The look on entitled wife's face as we politely grabbed our bags and moved to the coziest laps of luxury our young selves had the fortune of lucking out on. I remember the meal making me have a headache, but the reclining seats, warm blankets, and sleep masks sure helped with all that suffering. Am I the jerk for not wanting to take our niece on vacation in 2022? My husband and I do not have kids, but we have many nieces and nephews. A number of years ago, when we were in our late 20s and finally financially secure, our oldest niece was in senior year of high school, and we decided to take her on a beach vacation for a week. This has since become a tradition where we take our nibbling on a vacation during their senior year. Since this began, there has always been one nibbling each year. Then in 2020 to 2023, there are no nibblings graduating high school, so we won't be taking one on vacation until 2024. We've always made it clear it's a senior trip, and not just us working our way through them. We intentionally want to do it this way, as we do not want to travel with them when they're younger. They're 17 or 18 when we take them, which means we can give them their own room. We keep a key and do adjoining rooms, but that gives all of us privacy. They can do more excursions, and we can meet them for breakfast, or leave them unsupervised if we want to get a drink or a snack. We don't need to actively monitor them by water, and it's so much easier to airport travel with them if they're 17 or 18. A couple weeks ago, our sister-in-law said Jess was looking forward to planning her trip with us. Jess is next in line, currently in grade 9. Husband said she's rather eager since her trip is in 2024, but so great she's excited. Sister-in-law gave us death glares as I asked if we had misaged her, and sister-in-law said no. Jess is grade 9, but assumed she would be going in 2022 since she's next in line. Sister-in-law had ordered her travel books to help her plan, which we found odd, as we involve the nibbling in the planning, but we give them limited choices. We usually give them a choice of 3 locations, then from there a choice of resort. We told her that the trip is for senior year, so she needs to wait until 2024. Sister-in-law was angry, and Jess had had a hard time with the lockdown, so we offered to fly her out to visit us for a week. We live in a major city, for a change of scenery, but the major trip isn't until 2024. Sister-in-law is furious. Jess is disappointed, but seems to get it. The older nibblings are on our side, and said it was a fun thing for them in senior year, while other adults are conflicted, with some thinking we should just go through the list, taking one nibbling a year, regardless of the age. We are not parents, so may not be as empathetic as we should be. So, are we the jerks for wanting to wait until our nibblings are in senior year to take them on vacation? Edit. Nibbling is a gender-neutral term for a niece or a nephew. Did not realize it was weird until now. Edit. The first kid we did this for was Jess's older half-sister. Their biological dad, husband's brother, was widowed and had our oldest niece, then remarried to Jess's mother and had Jess and 2 more kids. This might be a factor in sister-in-law's reaction. I have no idea. Edit. We've talked to Jess directly. She is not upset. She was disappointed that her big trip wasn't next year, but understood the purpose of the trip. We've given her some location ideas as her mother had suggestions that are on the opposite side of the world. Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk for wanting to wait until their nibbling is in senior year to take them on a trip, or not? Please let us know.
Bruh, I'm still trying to get over the fact y'all be talking about nibbling.
Am I the jerk for walking out on dinner when friends ask me to leave? My group of friends made a reservation for dinner at a popular restaurant for 6 people, but when we got to the restaurant, one of my friends, let's call her person A, brought along her boyfriend without advance notice to any of us, hence making the total number of people 7. We all know her boyfriend well and are pretty chill with him, so we thought to ask the restaurant if 7 people is possible. Unfortunately, the restaurant was unable to accommodate 7 people as our reservation was stated for 6. This was also understandable as the restaurant was a popular one and packed during the night, so fair enough. At this point, person A, who is kind of the leader of our friend group, turns to me and says,
Okay, then I think you should leave so that we'll have 6 people.
I was flabbergasted and shocked when I heard that. My other friends kept silent and no one really spoke, so there was this awkward silence. I almost wanted to propose that perhaps we could have gone to a different restaurant down the street instead that could actually accommodate 7 people, for example. But I felt a surge of emotions and called her a heartless jerk. My friends all looked at me in horror, and person A clearly looked shocked as well. The next day, my friend, let's call her person B, texted me and said that I overreacted and I was a jerk for calling person A a name like that in public. I was confused by this as I thought that I wasn't the jerk in this situation, but maybe I was, I'm not sure. Am I the jerk? Edit. Someone in the comments raised a valid point. The rest of the friends were couples, aka 3 couples in this group, and I'm the only single person in the group. Person A's boyfriend said he couldn't make it when we made the reservation long ago, but he suddenly showed up at the restaurant last minute. Maybe me being the only single person in the group made me instantly the odd one out. Edit 2. Update. This thread is now locked, and I wanted to give some sense of closure and update. Thank you all for your insights and comments. I shared this thread with my friends, and they told me off and scolded me for actually sharing this in a public community. However, one of the couples, who I'm closest to in this group, reached out to me privately over text and told me that they felt bad and apologized for not speaking up. But that's it. I've had enough and will walk away. To emulate the example of Michael Jordan in The Last Dance, I would say, okay, you want to ask me to leave? Okay, fine. No problem, that's all I needed. I took it personal from then on. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her friend? Please let us know.
Sounds like OP needs to get some new friends.
All of our staff can't be thieves, can they? The very first hotel I worked at, the one with the half a sun on their sign, back in the 90s, still had the old brass keys for room access. At one point, we started to get an increasing number of complaints from guests that money and items were being missing out of their rooms. In any hotel, you expect the occasional complaint, but this went from one every blue moon to several a week. We of course look into it, but can't find a pattern. It's not just rooms cleaned by a specific housekeeper. No staff member was on property every day. We had a report. Nothing added up. All of our master keys are accounted for, so it's not due to a lost master. Several months go by with this happening, and it's to the point our GM is basically begging corporate to let us replace all of the locks. For a 400-room property, this is an insanely expensive undertaking, so they're not too keen with spending the money. One day, one of our maintenance guys remarks to the front desk, "With as much money as that one guest must have spent to stay here so long, they could have rented a place cheaper." This was odd, as we had no long-term guests. Being near the House of Mouse, most of our guests stayed a max of 2 weeks. So the desk clerk asks them what room they saw this person go into. Maintenance guy gives a room number, and that room had actually checked out with the clerk earlier that morning. Our GM and a few of the maintenance guys go up to the room to prevent whomever it was from getting away while the desk clerk calls the police. Once the police show up and take the person into custody, we finally found out what was going on. This guest lived locally. They had trained as a locksmith, but due to being caught driving drunk numerous times in short periods, they were a felon and could not get bonded to actually work as a locksmith. So they decided to check into a hotel and in the middle of the night take apart the lock from the inside of the room and use their training and tools to make a master key for the property. The police ended up searching this jerk's place looking for the tools he used and any items we could identify. Found a few items, but what really caught their attention was the stack of receipts from pawn shops in the area. We speak to them and we recover quite a few more items. When the police asked this person why they kept coming back to us, he said it was because all the other hotels in the area were switching over to the new, at the time, electronic locks. We were one of the few decent hotels still using metal keys, and all of our cameras pointed towards the parking lots and not the rooms. Our GM goes to corporate with this info and asks for lock upgrades and more cameras. Of course, corporate says no. Apparently, an anonymous person contacted our insurance carrier shortly afterwards. They spoke to corporate and threatened to pull our insurance unless these deficiencies were fixed. Soon afterwards, we were being trained on the new electronic locks and camera system. Okay, to clear up some speculation, I was the anonymous person. My GM and I had a conversation, and he was frustrated and thinking of quitting. He was too good of a boss for me to have to hope we get another just as good. So I went to the one computer we had, which had a modem in it, fired up the old throwaway CompuServe account, and sent off an anonymous email describing the problems we had. My HOA complaint broke up an entitled mom's marriage. This happened a few years ago, but I still think about it. After being blessed with great neighbors over the years, I started taking it for granted. Then Luna, her 4 dogs, all the same breed, and family, 2 teens and a husband, moved in the house next door. It started off well enough. Luna was friendly and the kids and husband seemed nice, but she soon decided that the best place for her dogs to go potty was my backyard. I didn't agree, and after suffering in silence for a few weeks, I'm not very confrontational, I finally told her that my backyard wasn't her personal dog park. When they got home from work, they would let their dogs loose to go running in my backyard, to play and go potty. One day, I happened to catch them and came out on my patio to tell them to cut it out. The dogs turned around and started running towards me while barking aggressively. Fortunately, her husband called them off before the little ankle biters got to me. And it wasn't just the dog that liked to hang out in my backyard. Luna liked to walk around my backyard while talking on her phone. One of the things I like about my house is the privacy. It backs to the woods, so I don't have a lot of curtains on my back windows and doors. But since Luna liked walking around my yard, I was forced to curtail my habit of cleaning while not dressed. And it was creepy. Once, after it had snowed, I realized that someone had walked up to my back patio and had been peeping in my French doors. Not long after, someone left a gift of poo on my front porch welcome mat. Geez, I wonder who did that. But then, Luna seemed to want to repair our rather rocky relationship and asked me what time I got off work. We could do drinks and hang out. I thought, whatever. So I told her, but no get-together ever materialized. I realized later that she just wanted to know what time I got home from work. What she didn't know was that I sometimes worked at home. On one of those days, I caught her once again letting her dogs loose in my yard, so I took a photo and sent it to the HOA. I think she was also sneaking her dogs into my other neighbor's fenced backyard. The ramifications were swift. That complaint was the straw that broke the camel's back. The marriage was already on shaky ground, and the husband was tired of her and her dog hoarding. I only saw 4 dogs at a time, but there were more. I didn't notice because they all looked alike. The next thing I knew, she and the dogs had moved back to South America. The kids went to live with relatives/college, and the husband was acting like someone who won the lottery. He always seemed somewhat grumpy before, but after she left, he was smiling and friendly. Then he bought a Harley, got a girlfriend, and proceeded to rid the house of copious amounts of urine-stained carpets. He was eventually evicted from the house. Yes, they were renters, because owners were sick of the complaints and fines and decided to move back in. Luna apparently had a gift for upsetting the neighbors on my block. The weird thing is that there were a couple of vacant lots and a dog park less than a block away, but apparently her neighbors' yards were the best place to take her dogs. Students pranked me. I had the last laugh. I spent about 10 years teaching high school humanities at a small private school. For my first 2 years, I didn't have a classroom, just a small office. I would bring what I needed for each class on a cart and go from room to room, depending on which teacher had a prep at any given time. This was incredibly inconvenient, and not being the most organized of teachers to begin with, made things difficult to keep track of. There were a group of 11th grade boys who decided to make things a little more difficult for me. They were good kids, we got along well. I coached several of them on the school soccer team, but they decided that since my office would often be empty, it was a great place to prank. It would never be anything too serious, things falling over when I opened the door, or things disappearing for a day and then turning up in a different place the next day. Nothing was ever damaged, and I could never prove who it was, even though I knew. My school had mandatory final exams in each academic course. I didn't really think they were necessary, so I would generally make them pretty easy with a lot of preparation. I would give out study sheets and play review games for a couple of weeks before the test, and there was no reason the students wouldn't do well on them. I had approval of admin to do this, as they weren't particularly fond of the final exam rule either. It was a school board policy. A few nights before the offending boys had their exam, I had a brainwave. I created a second exam. Gone were the multiple choice questions and obvious things from the review sheets. In their place came detailed questions about concepts that were briefly mentioned in class. Essay question after essay question. Ambiguous questions with no clear answers. Definitions of words that there was no way they knew. It took a couple of hours, but I laughed the whole time. When the test came, I had the special exams at the bottom of the pile and handed them out to each of the 4 or 5 boys. I told my vice principal what was happening and he insisted on being present. I started the timer and watched as the boys flipped over their papers. It was all I could do to keep a straight face. Eyes went wide, heads were shaking. Panic was setting in, especially as they saw all their classmates flying through their exams. One of the boys raised their hand. "Sorry, no questions during the final. You should be prepared based on your study sheets." I let them go for about 5 or 10 minutes of terror before I gathered the fake tests and gave them the real ones. They all passed with flying colors and never pranked my office again. It was glorious. Demand we work overtime for free? Enjoy having no employees. I was reminded of this story due to the recent passing of the hero of this story. Grumpy, you will be missed. I met Grumpy in an addiction recovery program. He volunteered there after they helped him, and he became my sponsor. Seeing that I was trying to get my life together, he offered me my first job out of high school. Grumpy was the manager of a store for a company that sold everything you needed to build a house, from cement and bricks to custom-made cupboards. I started as a loader, filling the trucks that were making deliveries. A little background for the company. It plays an important role later. When they started, back in the early 80s, they sold everything you needed to build a brick-and-mortar home wholesale to professionals. During their first expansion, they got a really good reputation for their prices of power tools, custom cupboards, and landscaping, including custom-made garden furniture. The stores were basically big warehouses. In the mid-90s, they opened their doors to the general public, which, accompanied by a rising tint of do-it-yourself, skyrocketed their sales. They brought a second, smaller wave of expansion and the opening of the online store, first only with phone orders and later on with a proper site. When I joined, they were doing a third shift on their business plan. They had cut down on things that weren't big sellers, like bricks and concrete, and were focusing more on the big sellers, custom-made furniture, landscaping, tools, and for some weird reason, plumbing. My first 8 months on the job was a dream. Grumpy was an excellent manager. Having started in the company roughly the same age I was and being promoted through the ranks, had developed a very distinct managerial style. His concept was simple. If my employees are happy, they work better and provide better services, which leads to better sales. That meant that while Grumpy managed one of the inner city stores, meaning medium to small size compared to others, we were fourth in revenue nationwide and first in customer happiness. And then the reason for his nickname stroke. While everyone called him Grumpy, a nickname he was kind of proud of, he was far from it. The reason was he had a medical condition that affected his nerves and had him left with a permanent frown on his face. He had declined promotion due to that condition, knowing the extra stress would make his condition flare up, meaning he wouldn't be as effective as he would like. His medical condition flared up unexpectedly, and Grumpy had to be hospitalized and be on sick leave for a time. HQ decided to not have one of Grumpy's assistants be an acting manager for the duration, but bring in a regional manager to take over the store for the duration. Let's call him Wilhelm. Wilhelm was the exact opposite of Grumpy. He was younger than Grumpy. He was in his late 20s. Grumpy was in his late 30s. He had a business degree, and he hadn't worked the floor at all. He was hired from the beginning as an office drone and climbed his way to regional manager. The reason he was put in charge of our store had to do with the change of the business plan of the company. You see, the change of focus had created a lot of empty spaces in the stores. A supermarket chain had approached the company with an offer to rent the empty space, especially for inner city stores. The company had accepted and placed regional managers in key stores to help with integration. The thing is, the supermarket chain had a reputation of being bad employers. That was reinforced by one of our tellers, who had worked for them for 3 years before quitting to join us. Wilhelm didn't help also. His managerial style was based in only one concept: make more money in any way possible. He started by changing our schedule from monthly to weekly, raising the sales targets to unrealistic heights, and always demanded more. In the first 2 weeks, 6 experienced people had left, 4 quit, and 2 were fired, and replaced by young, inexperienced people that were easier to manipulate. And then the integration happened. The floor was the first to feel the problem. The supermarket opened its doors and was understaffed. Wilhelm started sending people over to help for 4 to 6 hours, while also demanding to work their regular shifts. If someone declined, he or she was written up. 2 write-ups in 6 months and you were fired. Then Wilhelm came to lay the law in the loading bay. The loading bay was shared between the 2 stores. Wilhelm declared that we had to first help the 2 guys of the supermarket unload their trucks, because their products were perishable, and then start loading our own trucks. That would throw our delivery schedule to the wind. The loading crew worked from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. We loaded first the trucks that had longer to travel, so they will be ready to leave at 7 at the latest. The company had a next-day delivery policy for a 150-mile radius. What Wilhelm declared meant we couldn't start loading our trucks before 7:30, and they couldn't start their route before 9:30. We said as much, but Wilhelm didn't care. He said we had to do both jobs. When someone inquired about overtime, Wilhelm said no. He said we already made too much money with unsocial hours, 5 to 8, and leaving early, so he wouldn't approve overtime. So, from a nice environment that you wanted to work for, we all started getting miserable. We lost 10 people in the loading crew in a month because of the new rules. The new hires didn't last long. The floor was a mess also, started turning personnel fast. Anyone who is staying is either looking for another job, is afraid of unemployment, or is too young to know better. The sales had a very small decline, but customer happiness is plummeting fast. After almost 6 months, all the old guard that was left was ready to quit. But our savior came back. Almost 6 months from the day he was hospitalized, Grumpy walks into the store to claim his rightful position. He isn't a knight in shining armor, riding a pure white horse, carrying a legendary sword. He's in normal attire, slightly limping and holding a cane. We have a welcome back party and have a small glimmer of hope now that he's back. We are informed that Grumpy will be on light duty for 2 weeks before he becomes the manager again. Despite Grumpy being back, Wilhelm still remains the regional manager, which means he outranks Grumpy and will make it very clear in private meetings with all of us. If he caught us complaining to Grumpy, we were as good as gone. Still, a few of us are planning to have a meeting with Grumpy after the weeks, letting him get his sea legs back. But another department had other ideas. During his reign of terror, the only department that Wilhelm couldn't control was the workshop. He knew that if he treated them as bad as he did to us, they would quit, and the sales would go from a small decline to bottom of the barrel real quick. As I said, custom-made furniture was the #1 seller. So the head carpenter has a meeting with Grumpy on his second day talking about the future of the workshop. In reality, the guy spilled the beans on Wilhelm. With the pretext of catching up with the changes, Grumpy has meetings with everyone, learning what Wilhelm has done and why we had so many new staff. You could feel he was getting angrier with every meeting. He had also had an eye-opening meeting with the manager of the supermarket. Finally, the time had come that he is the manager again. The revenge. On his first day back as manager, Grumpy notifies everyone of a mandatory meeting after the store is closed. He has a solution. So gather in the store after closing hours, and Grumpy lays out the plan. For the next couple of days, nobody except him is coming to the store. If anyone calls us, we should direct them to him, which we did. When we started getting calls about the store being closed, Grumpy's answer to the headquarters was simple. The staff was working on a second job during their shifts, which is a breach of contract, so I had to fire them all and find new staff. That caught headquarters' attention, because nothing of that sort was reported in the last 6 months. They asked Grumpy for evidence, which he happily provided with our written testimonies, which brought a crapstorm on Wilhelm. You see, Wilhelm had an arrangement with the supermarket manager. He got a kickback from our unpaid labor for the supermarket, and the manager offered the same thing to Grumpy. He also included that Wilhelm regularly declined to sign overtime, which meant that if any one of us went to the labor department, the company would get a really huge fine. The aftermath. Wilhelm quickly got fired. We all received calls to interview with the company for an open position. We all received severance pay for our firing, plus most of the unpaid overtime, about 80% of it. Almost all of us went back to work with a small pay raise based on experience. The company took a long, hard look at the supermarket chain and distanced themselves from them. They stayed until their lease was over, but no shared employees anymore, and a lot of theirs jumped ship to our side. Next time Grumpy had to take time off, one of his assistants took over. 2 did a stellar job, leading to being promoted to managers in other stores. Grumpy brought back his usual managerial style, leading again to a rise of sales and customer happiness. I left the job 3 years later for a better paying position, but I still remember Grumpy as one of the best managers I ever had. Have you ever had a manager who stuck up for you? If so, how exactly did they do it? Please let us know. My co-host sure doesn't stick up for me, I'll tell you that. Take all of the tools? Okay, will do, boss. This is an older story. I just remembered it again. I was working as a cleaner on a construction site, and the boss man, Bob, didn't like me because I was a young woman in a man's world. He was an old and bitter man. His life was so boring that he came 2 to 4 hours early to the site almost every morning, even when he had the day off. Other workers were nice to me, especially John, who is important to this story. John was a good man, nice, funny, and kind. John really took me under his wing. But to the main story. This happened when the building was close to finished. I was cleaning inside of that building when I heard Bob's voice. Bob.
Hey, OP, why does this place look like this?
Me, looking around. Like what? Bob.
Like this. Tools all over the place. You need to keep this place clean.
Me. This is the construction site. We have tools. Workers use them. What do you want me to do? Collect them?
Yes, I need you to collect all the tools that are not in use right now.
You want me to collect all the tools that are not in use right now? Like take them to the outside storage so people need to walk all the way there to get them again?
What is your problem? Just do what I say. Collect all of them and don't do anything else until you're done.
Then Bob walked off. He just walked off. First I was mad, but then I thought, why not? And so I started to collect all of them. You let go of your hammer to use the circular saw? I took your hammer and walked off with it. I even found wheelbarrows that I used to take even more tools at the same time. I took all of the tools to storage. I separated different subcontractors' tools to different piles, so no tools were lost or mixed. At one point, John stopped me, very puzzled. What are you doing? We use these tools. Me. I know. I'm sorry that this makes things hard for you, but Bob told me to collect all of the tools that are not in use right now, so that's what I'm doing. John. Why would he make you do that? Me. I don't know. John. I'll go talk to him. Soon, John comes back. You didn't lie. Bob just told me to let you do your job. Me. Well then, I'll do my job. I took more tools to the storage. After like an hour or two, other workers started putting up signs like, I'm using this, or this is mine. And of course, I didn't take those tools again. I had to explain my surprising enthusiasm to steal people's tools many times, but all of the workers were nice, so they just took more cardboard and made more signs. Soon, Bob started to notice the signs of the workers, and he wanted answers. Bob.
What are these signs?
Me. Workers put them up.
Yeah, but why?
Before I have time to answer, John intervened. You told OP to collect all of the tools. She did it so good that we didn't keep up, so we put signs to mark tools that we're using. Bob.
Why didn't you stop her?
John. You told me not to. Me. And because I've been running around gathering tools, I have not done anything else. Bob.
Why not?
Me. Because the tools are constantly coming back inside, and no one uses them. I got yelled at, but it was worth it. Thanks for reading and have a nice day. Edit. Big thank you for all the people who gave me awards. I have never got so many. I hope that everyone has a great day. Am I the jerk for backing out of my cousin's wedding at the last minute? I'm 28, female, and my ex-boyfriend, 26, male, broke up with me 6 years ago after I cheated on him. My mother didn't approve of me dating non-Asian men and would introduce me at get-togethers and parties to Asian men who she thought would be a good fit for me. One of them ended up being my partner. I don't want to get into it. I just want to say that I did regret it and I did love my ex, but he was right to kick me to the curb. 2 years after we broke up, my cousin turned up at an event with him. They were happy and he had a good paying job in IT. I was still with my partner in a miserable relationship that had already been going downhill. He was mean like my mother and was very rude to my ex and cousin. The scene he made is what led to us splitting for good. My cousin and I used to be close, and so I asked her to stop dating him, but she refused. This caused a rift for a while, but eventually I came to terms with it. I met an amazing man, 26, male, and I fell in love. He helped me get over things, rekindled my relationship with my cousin, and even find closure with my ex. The two of them became best friends, and I was truly happy. Sure, it hurt to watch my cousin get what I had given up, but I had a great man, and she had a great man. Things changed after my cousin got engaged and asked me to be the bridesmaid. We had been good for years, and I knew it was leading there. My fiancé was asked to be one of my ex's groomsmen, but my cousin wanted me to be her maid of honor. At first, I was happy about it, but eventually I grew bitter. I didn't want to say anything to my fiancé or anyone, but I hadn't felt jealous or resentful in years, But watching the wedding unfold brought it all back up to the surface. I didn't tell my fiance because I didn't want to be accused of still having feelings for my ex. I love my fiance. This was just a bridge too far. I was cool until just before the wedding when I got a chance to listen to my ex and my fiance as they worked on his vows with the best man in my house. It was all about loyalty and how he would always honor her, how he had only ever thought he was in love before they met. I couldn't handle it and started having panic attacks and realized I couldn't do it. I tried to get out of it, but with the wedding only a few weeks away, no one would let me. I couldn't tell my fiance why because I didn't want him to think I still had feelings. So I tried to go, but had a panic attack and fainted early. After that, I just knew I couldn't do it, so I shut off my phone and left. Now everyone is mad at me. I told them all I couldn't do it, but no one listened. The only one not angry with me is my mother, and only for the wrong reasons. She thinks I was protesting the wedding. It was just too much. Am I the jerk for not wanting to ruin the wedding by passing out during the service or something? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
This is one of those stories that I'm really looking forward to reading your comments on, so please do let us know what you think.
Am I the jerk for telling my daughter to stop crying since this isn't about her? I have a 28-year-old daughter and a 33-year-old son. I remarried 1 year ago to my wife, 30 female, and I had told her while dating that I was in my 60s and I wasn't aiming to have more kids. For the past few weeks, my wife had started acting strange and said she felt sick and tired. The other day, my wife and I were visiting my daughter and her boyfriend who just got an apartment together. My wife was on edge the whole time. Finally, she blurted out that she found out she's pregnant. She looked apprehensive, so I asked why she was treating this like bad news. She said she wasn't sure how I'd feel about the news, so I told her that it was unexpected, but that especially recently, I've come to really value kids in a way I couldn't when I was younger, and was either away from home altogether or working 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. I told her that my business is very much hands-off now, and this time around, I have time and resources, and I'm so excited to devote that to our kid. And that I would do everything to make our kid the happiest with the happiest family. My daughter was in the adjacent room, but I didn't notice that she had walked in. She started sniffing, and when I asked what's wrong, she started full-on crying. She curtly said, "Congratulations," and started walking out. I caught up with her in the hallway, and she spun around and said, "Great to see that you finally calmed down, Dad. If only it happened 25 years ago, and not just because of age." I told her that I was only trying to make my wife feel better, and that she didn't have to cry and yell because this wasn't about her. This was about letting an anxious woman I loved know that she and her kid would want for nothing and worry about nothing. She looked furious and said, "Yeah, this is about a kid who is going to get a chill, indulgent dad and a happy mom because he got him the second time around." After that, my wife and I left because we knew we weren't welcome at the moment. Am I the jerk for defending what I said and for telling my daughter that this really has nothing to do with her and everything to do with a baby I intend to be a great dad to? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for what he said or not? Please let us know.
He is the jerk for not even trying to understand his daughter's feelings. Too bad he can't see that.
I don't work at this furniture store, Karen. So I was out today with my boyfriend and 2 of our friends to go mattress/furniture hunting. We had already been a couple of stores already, and I started to need to relieve myself. The employees of the store we went to were wearing business casual clothes. I was wearing a sweatshirt from my college and some black joggers. I asked a lady at the front desk where the restrooms were, and she said they had one behind 2 black swinging doors in the back warehouse type area. When I was finished, I went back to the floor area to find my boyfriend when I heard,
Excuse me?
me, looking at the source of the noise, confused.
Yes, you. I've been here 20 minutes already, and none of you have offered to help me yet. Every other store I've been to, the employees have greeted me at the door and asked me if they could help me.
Me. Well, I'm sure if you were to ask an employee, one would be happy to help you.
Well, I'm not supposed to have to ask for help. You are supposed to offer it, whether I need it or not. I finally gave up on waiting, so I am now asking you to help me. So you better do your job before I get you fired and give this place a bad rating.
Me. Ma'am, I don't work here. I would recommend going to ask an actual employee for help.
I know you work here. Why else would you be coming from those back doors?
At this time, I noticed my boyfriend was starting to walk towards me. Me. Yeah, there's a restroom back there. I'm here to look at furniture just like you. Boyfriend. Hey, are you ready to leave? Friend 1 and friend 2 went back. Karen rudely cuts him off.
I want this girl fired. She refused to help me and tried to pretend she doesn't work here.
Boyfriend. First of all, you are not going to talk to either of us like that. Secondly, you've got to be dumb to not be able to tell that she doesn't work here. I suggest you leave us alone before we get the manager. He had a pretty stern-sounding voice, and her jaw basically hit the floor. I think she got the hint after that and probably went to bother someone else. We left the store, and he had to listen to me rant about what a stupid jerk she was being over dinner as well. Sir, I said I sell power tools. We've got me, female 23, friendly, nice, bubbly, you know, all the good qualities, tool vendor wearing a branded black polo shirt. We've got the old man, male and around 80, old, not wearing a mask, carrying around a visibly strained and used hand pump sprayer for spraying weeds. Old man.
You, young lady, where can I find this? I need to exchange it.
Me. Good afternoon, sir. I can help you find the sprayer section. I'd just like to let you know I'm the brand name vendor, so I'll just help you find it. I don't think you'll be able to exchange it since it's been used, but let's find an option that will work for you. Walks over to the end cap with the sprayer. Me. Well, it looks like we don't have the same brand here. Check the website app to verify, but it's a 2.5 gallon sprayer. So these points to the 2.5 gallon sprayers. Old man.
This sprayer I bought last year doesn't work no more. I just pulled it out today to use it for the first time this year, and it doesn't work. I need you to exchange them.
Me. I'm sorry that's not working for you. If you're interested in a new battery-operated one, I'd love to set you up with one. But if not, these would be your options for a replacement. Old man.
Now listen here. I'm not buying another piece of crap that's just gonna break on me. You're going to exchange these for me because it's broken down on me.
Me. Sir, I don't work for the Home Depot, but due to my knowledge, they don't do exchanges for products that have been used. I would recommend checking out the options on the shelf here, and if you have any questions, look for someone in the orange apron. The Home Depot employee walks by wearing an orange apron. Poor guy. Old man.
Hey, you!
Points to the associate, who goes over to him.
This pretty girl won't help me exchange my broken sprayer. She said you can do it since you work here. This is broken. I need a new one.
Home Depot associate. Hi, do you have a mask? Old man.
That's fake. I want you to give me a new sprayer. This one's broken and I need one now.
Associate. Okay, well, if it's broken, you can buy another one. We don't have that brand, but these here are the same size and only like $15. Old man, yelling now.
No, I will have you exchange this. I only bought it a year ago and it's already broken. This piece of crap, I'm not paying for anything else, you stupid idiot. I didn't break it. Your store sold me a bad tool.
Mind you, Home Depot doesn't sell this brand, so he didn't even buy it from this company. Associate. Here, let me take you to customer service to see what they can do for you. Old man.
You better give me my exchange. I'm not paying for another one.
He walks past me, reaches out, and squeezes my shoulder and literally coughs in my face. Old man.
God bless you, girl. Take care of yourself.
Me internally. Get away from me. What's crazy is interactions like this happen every single day and are often creepier. Ugh, why can't people just be decent? Revenge is a dish best served soiled. This is a story about how I found out my girlfriend of over 3 years was cheating on me and how I went about getting my revenge. This happened over a year ago, so it's been good to get it all down. Been thinking about it for a while. Certainly feels cathartic, and I've tried to make it as entertaining as possible. Thanks in advance for reading. I suppose firstly I should start by telling you how I met my girlfriend and what she came to mean to me. I first met Sarah at a yoga class in the summer of 2016. Never in my life did I think I would see myself going to something like that. The silly spandex, the holier-than-thou attitude, the way that everyone talked to each other so strange. It's not something I ever imagined myself doing, but when I hurt my back after falling from a first-floor roof at work, I decided to give it a shot on the recommendation of my back massage therapist and found a hall in my city doing beginner yoga classes. When the day to go came and I walked through the door, I instantly stuck out like a sore thumb. Everyone was standing around talking, dressed to the nines in their best yoga gear, while I sauntered in, wearing bog standard shorts and a t-shirt, looking like someone from a cowboy flick walking onto a sci-fi movie set. I immediately wanted to about turn and leave, of course, but the woman doing the class saw the look of pure terror in my eyes and came up to me and said hello. I told her why I was there and that I didn't feel very comfortable, but she insisted that I should give it a try, as she thought it would help my back problems, and if not, well, no harm, no foul. I felt better at this point and thought, oh well, might as well try it and get my money's worth, even if I do end up looking like a diseased pretzel. It was then that I looked across the room and saw the same look of terror that I had no doubt been portraying. That was Sarah. She had not long ago found out that she had scoliosis after years of being misdiagnosed and told that it was all in her head, among other things. She was there with her mother, who was with her for emotional support and to see how she got on. After seeing her, I instinctively gravitated toward her in the same way that a drowning person gravitates towards a life ring thrown at them. After the yoga instructor had a chat with her, she shouted me over and said that it was Sarah's first time too, so maybe we should sit next to one another and give each other a bit of support. I said that was cool with me, and she also smiled and nodded, so I walked over. We hit it off right away. My emotions went from a bit of embarrassment to serious amusement as we both attempted to fit in with the rest of the class. After the class was over, we were still talking away, and I felt a genuine connection and butterflies in my stomach, and as we said goodbye, we caught each other's gaze, and she smiled at me with a purity that for the first time in my life made me feel weak at the knees. I wouldn't have went back in a million years had I not met her, but I decided to go to the next week, and when I walked in the door, I got those butterflies in my stomach again and was hoping to see her face. But she wasn't there. As I was sitting there, I felt this feeling of pure dread and was sat there thinking, what the heck am I even doing here? I felt this sadness that was hard to describe. It kind of reminded me of when I went to this holiday caravan park when I was about 12 with my gran and cousins, and there was this big center with pool tables and amusements and all that stuff. I remember seeing this girl there every night for a week, and I instantly fell in love with her. Didn't say a word to her, but psyched myself up so that I was gonna try to speak to her on the last night at the disco. But when we went down, she wasn't there. I'll never forget that feeling of sadness as we went home. That girl had walked out of my life, and she probably didn't even know she walked into it. I felt the same aching sadness when I didn't see Sarah. I knew nothing about her, had no way of contacting her, and felt this surreal sadness that was hard to quantify. About 4 months later, I was working on a roof repairing a truss damaged in a storm when we decided to stop for a break. As we made our way back to the van, the house owner came out and asked if we wanted a cup of coffee. We accepted, and she came out with coffee and biscuits. As soon as I saw this woman, I just knew her face from somewhere, but couldn't for the life of me place her. It wasn't until that night, after racking my brain, that I realized it was at that yoga hall I had seen her before, and it was Sarah's mother. The next day, I was back finishing the job, and the same thing happened. We stopped for a break, went down towards the van, and the woman came out asking if we wanted some coffee. After we finished up, I took the cups and biscuit wrappers back, and as I was passing them over to her, I asked how her daughter was, and was she still having back problems. She looked surprised, but smiled at me and said yes, then asked how I knew her. I replied that I'd spoke to her at a yoga class months back. She laughed and said she remembered me now. I then gave her a card with my number written on it and asked if she could maybe get her daughter to text me, as I wanted to get back in touch with her. Shoot my shot, I thought. Wish I hadn't now. I got a text message that night from Sarah asking how I was and that she had looked for me again at the yoga hall, but I wasn't there. Turned out she had went back the week after me as she thought it was bi-weekly. We met up soon after, really hit it off again, and after 8 months, she moved in with me. She was funny, smart, and sweet, as well as being the most uniquely beautiful person I'd ever met. She had a whimsical beauty to her, pointed ears, and defined features. She reminded me of a she-elf or something. I truly thought I'd found my soulmate. She had moved into my home and everything was going great. She was on disability and got personal independence payments and was getting injections for her scoliosis, which along with painkillers and exercise were keeping her pain at bay. We would alternate the cooking while she did the cleaning and took care of our cat, Mitzi. I was also making good money, so we were in a comfortable position financially. When I got back from work, we'd always be doing things like going out on walks or the like, just always in each other's company. It was at this point I was seriously contemplating proposing to her. Things changed around Halloween of 2019. Our love life was great, But there were times when she occasionally wasn't up for things, and I was fine with that. Well, around October, she started complaining a lot about her back hurting more, especially just before the times we'd usually go to bed. Thing is, she seemed fine in other aspects of her life. She seemed happy. The first real red flag for me came in December, when she completely stopped showing me affection. She just became cold towards me. She seemed repulsed when I put my arms around her or tried to take her hand. She was the one who was so touchy and feely, hands and hair, constantly reaffirming touches, kisses, and cuddles. When we'd sit on the couch, she'd basically be on top of me. That all completely stopped. Didn't for Mitzi though. Yes, that's right, I ended up jealous of our cat. At this point, we were in the new year, and I suspected her of cheating. She had become downright hostile towards me. I started trying to up my workload around the house, but nothing was good enough. I ended up constantly being belittled and walking on eggshells, couldn't do right for wrong, and was starting to become a humorless shell of my witty former self. One night, I got a hold of her phone and looked through it. Nothing. Was clean as a whistle. Wasn't even any messages from her friends or her mother, which I found weird. That was when my friend told me that if we were on the same plan, then I could check on the carrier's website and see all of the activity from her phone. We were on the same plan, and I paid for her phone. That night, I logged into my account, navigated to mobile, then her number, started to sift through, and there it was. Thousands of texts and calls to this one specific number. It had started 6 months previous, and it had dates, times, and how long the calls were. She'd be speaking to and texting this person for hours and hours while I was at work, deleted everything before I got home, then going cold turkey when I got back. I googled the number, and up came a local garage, one where she had got her car fixed previously. I remembered it taking a while for it to get fixed and her complaining about it a lot. The whole thing was a long, drawn-out affair, in more ways than one apparently. At this point, I was ice cold. I already had got into my head she was doing this, so getting it confirmed was more of a relief than anything else. I wanted to catch her in the act, rather than have her attempt to gaslight me and squirm out of the circumstantial. So I found out everything I could about this guy. I found out where he lived, that he had a wife and a kid, found out what car he drove, even walked in asking about prices so I could look this guy in the eye and get a measure of him. His name was Carl with a K. I knew the affair was physical for lots of reasons, but the fact that their phone calls and texts stopped dead from 1 to 2 each day said to me that that was the time they were meeting up. I came up with all sorts of silly plans to loan my friend's car and sit at the end of the street, then wait till she drove out, then follow her to the place she was meeting this guy and jump out of the car like, surprise! There were too many variables in that though, and I'm no private detective. One day I decided to drive by his garage about 1:30 and her car was just sitting there and the place was locked up, so mystery solved. I was at this point at the end of my tether and ready to just tell her that I knew everything and to get out of my house when she asked if it would be okay to go away to a spa place for the weekend, alone. She said she was depressed with everything with her back being so much worse, that this place would be great to help her with all of the things that she could do, that she could come back refreshed and like a new person. She was right about that, because I didn't know who the heck this was standing in front of me anymore. Obviously, she wasn't going there alone, if she was even going there at all. This would be a weekend getaway with this guy. I said fine. Now I had a new plan, and this would be the last thing I'd do for her. If you're thinking this is all too much, then you're right, obviously. But my position is, I wanted revenge, and I wanted to get her back with some style. I didn't just want to have her cry at me and gaslight me for days, then leave on her terms, with me being the bad guy. I would be the bad guy, but it would be my terms that she'd be leaving on, alright? The Friday came, and the spa was 100 or so miles down the road, so she decided to get a train. I jokingly asked her if she couldn't find something more local. Umming and oohing followed, till I told her I was only kidding. I got off work a couple hours early and took her into the train station. Despite her protest, she would get a taxi, as I wanted to see her off. We drive in, and as I'm looking for a place to park, you wouldn't guess whose car I spot. That's right, Carl with a K. I think I'm gonna have some fun and make her squirm, so I park up directly next to him. They're right next to each other, door to door, and she immediately becomes uneasy, not knowing where to look. I'm pretending to look for something, trying to draw out the moment, and the atmosphere is razor sharp at this point. What happened next genuinely caused me to do something out with my plan. She started to silently giggle. You know when you go to church and something funny pops into your head, and it's too hard trying to think of something else and stop yourself from laughing? Well, she's desperately trying not to laugh. I'm pretending not to notice. She's tapping her hand on her trouser leg, and from the corner of my eye, I can see him, with his head on the steering wheel. She actually lets out a laugh, then quickly disguises it as a cough and starts clearing her throat. I start doing the whole tapping of back thing, and I'm just thinking to myself, I can't wait to get you back. See, we all go through life being the butt of a joke at least once, whether it be passive-aggressive work colleagues or when you get up and try and do a talk at school with a face redder than the devil himself. But you never expect that crap from people who are supposed to have your back, even if you are conspiring against them at that point. I helped her into the train station with her things, made sure she had her bearings, said goodbye, and walked away. By the time I got out, Carl with a K's car was nowhere to be seen, so I went back home, composed myself, and carried out my plan. My plan was simple but effective. I started by having a locksmith come out to change the locks. I then proceeded to pack all of her clothes and belongings into bin bags and put it round the side of the house. On Friday night, with the noise of her laughing at me ringing in my ears, I did something I never imagined I could do. I took Mitzi's litter tray, walked around the side of the house with it, opened the bin bag with Sarah's belongings in it, and threw it in. Gave the bag a good shake, and then tied it up again. The way I saw it at the time was that it's cause and effect in action. She caused me to effectively put cat dew in with her things. If you're thinking I'm the jerk, then you're probably right. I'll never win any awards for being the nicest neighbor on the block. If I don't like you within 5 minutes of meeting you, I probably never will. And the only time I'd ever take out your trash is if you are trash. If you do break through those barriers though, I think I'm a loyal, caring person. I didn't do anything to deserve being cheated on, except maybe putting cat litter in with her things, but that was after the fact. I spent the Saturday in a mire of depression, answering her texts with the only energy I could muster, which wasn't a lot. I complained of a severe headache from a hangover I never had, and the texts dwindled. The reality of what was transpiring hit home, and for the first time since before New Year, I took stock of my life, sitting in my swivel armchair with Mitzi in tow like a Bond villain. Sunday came, and I was ready to execute the final part of my plan. Firstly, I drove to Carl with a K's house and put a letter through his door. It was addressed to his wife and basically said in block capitals, "Important, Carl with a K's wife, name, open immediately." Inside it was a letter outlining how her husband was getting with my girlfriend, copies of the phone calls and text log, as well as other information like they had been going together for this weekend. I put it through the door, rang the doorbell, and walked away. Got in my car and drove for a minute, then parked up again. Then I phoned Sarah. I genuinely can't remember a lot of what I said to her, but it was something along the lines of me asking how everything was going. She started to gush about how much she enjoyed herself, that she feels like a new woman, and that she could maybe see herself doing it 2 or 3 times a year. At this point, I blurt out, "How's Carl?" Her yapping stops dead. Silence fills the air until she finally says, "Who's Carl?" "You know," I reply, "Carl with a K." I then proceeded to tell her that I knew everything, that I had changed the locks and all her stuff was around the side of the house. Instead of being apologetic, she goes on a thunderous diatribe, blaming me for everything. At the end, I told her how her stuff smelled of Mitzi's dew and hung up. I blocked her number and didn't see hide nor hair of her until the Wednesday. When I came back from work, she was sitting on the doorstep. All the bags had been moved. I ignored her, walked around the back, let myself in the back door, and locked it behind me. Haven't spoken to her since, although she's made her attempts, including a letter. In regards to Carl, I don't know what happened between him and his wife. I do know that he said it wasn't personal to a friend of mine. That made me angry. Like, is that supposed to make it better? Someone saying something isn't personal just means it isn't personal to them. It was to me. If someone smashes through your front room, is it easier to get over it if they didn't personally mean it? Is it easier to pick up the pieces and put them back together again? No. I heard that Lockdown hasn't been kind to his business though, but you won't catch me shedding no tears for that. Unless it's tears of laughter, that is.
If you enjoyed these stories, come watch this one next. And remember, subscribe